right, so today we are coming out of the Ghastly Hallows with a minisode, an interview, something very different from normal programming around here. Sans Bolt and Sans Red, and well, I have a feeling one of them might run an interference here today. If they do, just kindly ignore the men behind the curtains if they should choose to run in. No fishes or robots allowed today. I'm interviewing a special guest coming out of a state which I have vehemently discussed horrible on this podcast in the past. But without further ado, Mr. Honker S. CLOWNSON, the disciple of Rob Zombie, Mr. RLEE Grind. I have no audience thing, so just introduce yourself.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Oh, disciple of Rob Zombie. Yeah,
You are.
yeah. I don't know how that happened, but it happened, and I'll take it. I'll wear it with pride.
Sir, you advocate for Rob Zombie's Jaws more than anybody else I know. And more people are upset about a fictional film that has not even been produced, written, or funded in any way. Somehow, people are mad every time you post a meme on it.
It's true. It's true. I'm trolling TikTok with a meme meant to troll Rob Zombie fans. It's bizarre to me.
How it happened, I don't know. Like I was actually thinking about this to myself. If Rob Zombie were to make Jaws with Sherry Moon Zombie as the shark, I would be lying to myself if I said I wouldn't watch it. I'd watch it.
Right?
Why wouldn't I watch it?
I think everyone would watch it. You have to see it. Even if you just watch the trailer, you would watch it. You would have to. It's one of those perfectly, incredibly ridiculous concepts that shouldn't work, but if made, would work.
I mean,
in all the right ways.
We gave a lot of Sharknado movie people our money, didn't we? We gave them a lot of money until they made it up to like 8 movies. And full disclosure, I went to see Piranhas 3DD when it came out. And everybody looked at me all funny, like, why would you watch that? And I had a Cartman moment. Yes, I went to see Piranhas 3DD. Now who wants to touch me? I said, oh, I haven't touched me. My cousin walks up. Ooh. Like, that's such a terrible movie. Why would you go see it? Because it's terrible. And I have to witness it.
Exactly. We all need to consume a little something terrible, but not so terrible that we have to take cold showers and spend 3 days isolated in a dark room weeping to Evanescence songs. So,
sir, they've outlawed you with bowl movies in this country, hopefully someday. So we don't have to deal with that anymore. I was the victim of the first House of the Dead movie. And I have never seen people get up and walk out of a theater in uniform. Like, it was just that bad when I was sitting in the theater. I was about to get up and walk out. My brother looks at us and goes, "We're not getting a refund. You sit down and you finish this piece of crap. And we're going to take a big bite together." I'm like, oh, man. But it sucks. He's like, I don't care. We're not getting that refund. You're going to watch the whole thing.
You know, when I saw it, and this is true story. There's a semi-packed theater. It wasn't all the way full, but it was the opening weekend. There were a lot of people there, and about 7 minutes in, it became like a Rocky Horror Picture Show experience. Like, we were shouting stuff at the screen, and it was Mystery Science Theater meets Rocky Horror. And it was actually a really fun experience. Like, someone was like, "That's stupid. Oh my God, that sucks." And someone else goes, "Not as much as your mom." And then, we're just all having like this great fun time. So I can't say that it's the worst movie ever, because I had a really delightful theater going experience with it. So I think
got the one lucky theater in the planet. Well, then again, where were you when you saw this one?
It was Missouri. So we know that the average IQ in the building was 7, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying I have a high IQ, but I know it's more than 7, but that was the average.
Oh man.
There were a
Uh,
lot of family trees that just went straight up in that theater. But
oh
if
man.
anyone listening to this, I'm from Missouri. I'm allowed to make these jokes. So,
Are you though? Oh yeah. Well, if anyone's allowed, you more than I am. So, all right, cool. Everybody, just remember it was RLEE that said Missouri. No one in Missouri is gonna listen to this anyway. But just remember, it was RLEE, not me. And please, thank you to the tow truck driver that helped me stay alive that night when my car decided to die after going into the Ozarks for the 10th time that year. I hate the Ozarks. So, RLEE has as we just established, he's a popular TikToker. Goes on to TikTok talking horror and loves trolling people. So, you have how many characters is it that you have now on TikTok? Because I know
oh, okay.
that your library in your rogues gallery grew over there, both real and in quote unquote kayfabe.
Yeah. Well, let's see. On the puppet side of the house, we've got Cecil Candybottom, Count Catula, uh, Mortimer the Ghost, Lenny the Werewolf, just introduced him, and occasionally Boggy the Boglin will make an appearance. We also have Film Bro. We have Mr. Cinema, the cinema snob, and Doug, the serial killer, which those characters haven't made an appearance for a while, but we're working something out and they'll be back soon.
So I'm curious, Cinema Snob and Doug, are those based off of the channel Awesome Guys?
No, they're not. Doug is actually based off a neighbor that I had recently. Very nice guy. Um, Saw him coming out of his house with a hammer one day. Um, like he had a polo shirt on and his hair was combed over to the side and he had his glasses and he just walks out with like a polo shirt and khakis and he's got a hammer in his hand. I was like, oh my god, that man is going to commit homicide. I was like, and I'm gonna call him Doug. I don't know what his name is, but that's Doug. And then I brought Doug into my fold. And Mr. Cinema is just based on every movie snob and film snob that I've ever come in contact with.
The
Just
wannabe Jay Sherman. It stinks.
yeah,
It
yeah.
stinks.
It's or the people that you just didn't get it, dude. It's Jaws the Revenge. Like we all got it. We all understood. We understood the assignment.
Yeah, we weren't here to watch a groundbreaking film. We were here to watch a shark eat people. All right, we're back because we saw the first shark eat people, and we're here to see it happen again.
Exactly. And
Store.
Michael Caine. Like who doesn't love a good Michael Caine?
Apparently, Michael Caine did not love a good Michael Caine in that movie. Didn't he come out like years ago saying, "If there's one movie I could undo, it was Jaws. I was here for the paycheck and nothing more." Like that. My Michael Caine impression is awful.
Oh, it's so much better than mine. I'm not even gonna try. So
No, that was one of my strengths, apparently. I make good impressions. The other day, we were talking about the Bohemian Grove, and I just kept going back to my colleague. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with the globalist agenda. Over at the Bohemian Grove, we're infiltrating, and we've seen it happen. The owl is there, ladies and gentlemen. My colleague's like, Alex Jones is going to sue us. I'm like, sue me for what? He can't transplant his debt over to me, all right? It's not going to work. That doesn't work that way.
oh, good lord. Yeah, that guy. That guy. He might be from Missouri for all I know. I mean, he gives off very Missouri vibes.
He does, and half of the homeowners I went down there sound exactly the way he does. It
I'm,
was intense.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Average IQ was 7, so like.
Oh man. Oh, by the way,
Hey,
that
hey,
was a
if
good
for
movie.
anyone listening, I'm R. Lee. You can find me on TikTok. Send your hate my way, and go Cardinals.
Oh boy. Oh well, I did get to drive past their stadium on the way out. That was a
Oh,
that was an ordeal. It was like 3 in the morning. It was empty, and I saw the stadium lights were still sort of on in St. Louis. That was fun.
oh yeah. I love Stadium. I'm a big Cardinals fan. I couldn't I couldn't tell you how many games I've been to, but I love that. I love St. Louis. Rest of Missouri can,
Yeah, you know what's funny?
yeah.
Everybody that I met that was more or less of that felt like they were city folk. They were all from St. Louis, and they all hated being in Columbia. All of them. They're like, one guy's like, I'm here on coverage. I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. So he's like, just find a bit of hail on the roof so I can pay for it and get the hell out of here. I'm like, so how many dings you need? They say 10, but if you show me 5, I'm going to pay for it so I can get the hell out of here. There's no cell phone signal. There's nothing for miles, and I'm tired of eating gas station pizza. I'm like, you and me both, but at least you get to go home. I'm here for another 2 weeks. Oh, man. Yeah, I think it's the gas station pizza that does it. There's just nothing but there's no restaurants out there, right? It's all gas stations and gas station pizza, and people actually buy the pizza happily from the gas stations out there.
So there is Casey's Pizza, and Casey's Pizza isn't your typical gas station pizza. They have a taco pizza that I have consumed pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds of over the years. So I mean, I'm from Missouri, so there's something in the water that makes us all a little off. So
Well, I can't hold it against you. Again, we have to remember, I'm a New York snob. I'm used to when I was like from since I was in high school and college, I would go down into the village and buy pizza for $1, accompanied with a soda for 50 cents, and I would enjoy myself for endless nights. And then even when I'm coming home drunk, I will still make the stop into Dollar Pizza, have one, and then go home and throw it up on the train. That's New York living.
there you go. There you go. New York is great until it gets cold, and then nope, that's not for me.
Well, that's what everybody says. I do my best to give people warnings when they say, I would love to have a New York winter Christmas just like in Home Alone. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You just get that idea right out of your head. They're like, why? I go, I have spit on the floor in New York before, and it's frozen in the wintertime. And driving around here in the snow, when we get snow, and it's in the middle of in the heart of the city, it is the most dangerous and life-changing experience ever. You don't want to be here in the winter. Go back to your village.
Yeah.
Only the strong survive. I am
Yep.
Ned Stark, and I'm telling you, I freak out when I see the autumn winds coming. I look over at my wife. Winter is coming. Jeez. And the worst part about it is every time I get goofy on anything, she's like, okay. This one, she's like, yeah, winter is coming. Oh,
I mean,
man.
where's the lie? I lived in Wisconsin for 2 years, and I still wouldn't go to New York. And so, yeah.
Oh, man. We are just crapping on every state today because my colleague, the other host around here, his wife is from Wisconsin.
Oh, she's a cheesehead, eh?
Yeah, she's a big cheesehead, eh? And then when she came to visit, I was around when she visited New York the first time. I looked at her. I go, "Have you ever been here before?" She's like, "No, it's like I haven't really been here like outside of the touristy areas." I'm like, "Okay." The most New York food you can eat in New York that you can't get anywhere else, even though they tell you can, is City Walk takeout Chinese food. So I'm like, you want to order that because it's a lot cheaper than whatever they're gonna take you to go get. So they order it for her, and she's like, "This actually smells good." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. It's not authentic at all. It's only authentic in the sense a Chinese guy made it, but it's not what real Chinese food is like. But it's only here in New York can you track it down." She's eating it, and she's like, "How long have you been in New York?" "Longer than you. I'm a Northeast nomad. I was born in Maryland, but I've lived here most of my life. So take it from me." She steps outside. She's like, "It's not that cold here, but it is inconvenient being in New York in the winter." I'm like, "Yeah, you know it." I think
Oh,
we're always pissed off as New Yorkers because we know summer ends. Our summers are extremely hot and they end. And then we go into the winter time, which is just another sense of horror. It's always scary in New York.
But don't you all have like 3 days of fall? Like I've always heard that there's like 3 days of perfect fall weather
Yeah,
where you wake up and it's like 55, but afternoon it's like 70, but it only lasts 3 days.
yeah, it's 3 days, and then we go right back into it. We call it Fool's Autumn. So
Ah,
it's Fool's Autumn, real autumn, which lasts like a day, and then we go into early winter, Fool's Winter, fake summer, and then it becomes winter, just right out of nowhere. So we're wearing hoodies like most of the year, when like most of the time, because it's the only way to brace yourself for impact. Just have a hoodie on hand until fake winter passes, and then you hit real summer. That's how it goes. It,
wow.
yeah, we don't understand it. The gods of nature around here just like to piss you off, so we just get used to it, and that's why New Yorkers are always angry.
See, and that's kind of like Missouri in a lot of ways. The gods of nature are like, "Hey, gods of nature in New York, hold my beer. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to give you sub-zero temperatures in the morning. It's going to shoot up to 77 degrees. We might throw a tornado in there. Here's a blizzard and a flood.
Yo, this year
Happy Tuesday."
when I went out there this year, it was summer, and y'all had golf ball sized hail hitting the roofs in the dead of summer.
Oh, that's nothing. It's the softball size hail that we get.
Oh yeah, there was some of
Yeah,
those too. Some guys like,
yeah.
yeah.
You're like, do I go outside? Nope, not today. Like 10 people died because they had to go check their mail or something like that, and some golf ball sized ball of ice or softball sized ball of ice crack them in the skull.
Oh
It's
man, there was one guy I felt bad for. You know when you want to chuckle at something but you feel bad. Guy buys a Tesla. Guy installs the Tesla thing into his garage to charge his Tesla. He has the MAGA sticker on his Tesla. I go visit him and he says, "Yeah, I just bought this car, and look at the side. It looked like somebody had shot it up, but it was just hail that hit the entire side of his car." I'm like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, dude." He's like, "Yeah, not as sorry as I am. Apparently, they no longer cover this kind of damage on my Tesla, and I just got it like a week ago."
I mean,
Uh,
that's what you get for buying a Tesla. Like
eh.
I might renounce my atheistic views and say maybe there is a God.
Oh,
God's
that
like,
wasn't that bad. I saw
not
another
today,
idiot.
Tesla man.
I saw an idiot who bought the razor looking one. That really nasty quote unquote truck that Tesla has released. He had one of the,
Cybertruck.
yeah, that nasty truck thing that I don't even think that's a truck. That's just somebody got high and misdrew the DeLorean, and then they released that. That's what that is. It's a bootleg DeLorean.
Yeah, you know what it always reminds me of? The 80s and early 90s future post-apocalyptic alien action movies, the really bad ones, where they invested most of the budget into making like two cars that looked futuristic and they all looked like the Cybertruck.
There is a movie that I'm remembering with Linnea Quigley in it, and I just can't get the name, but that's what it looks like. It's like one of those movies.
Yeah,
Yes, the
exactly.
aliens are like body snatching aliens or something like that, and that's why they designed the truck. I'm trying to remember what movie that was. It was with Linnea Quigley. Then they're all like in some kind of weird army base, and you see the guys driving the razor looking thing, and that's where the whole budget went because it's all borrowed off of Roger Corman's set.
Yes, I know. Oh my goodness, why my brain is farting. I can see it. I
Yeah.
can see it in my head. I can see. There's a scene where they're kind of like in this locker room,
Yes.
and they're arguing because they're like, "Well, we don't know," and they're kind of going back and forth. Oh, and they're wearing like white jumpsuits or gray
Yes, they're
jumpsuits.
wearing like white
Yes, yeah.
jumpsuits with tank tops or something like that, and I'm like, this is where the budget went. It went in that car. That's where the budget went, and I can't remember the name of this movie now.
I can't either. Oh,
Oh, that's what that one's like. And speaking of 80s schlock horror, so I'm gonna ask you one interesting question regarding the 80s because you went through the 80s, huh?
I did.
Yeah, so you
I
were
did.
there when all these movies were coming out. You can actually say, "I was there. I was there when
I
that piece of crap came out."
yes, I actually can. Yeah, for a lot of those movies, because despite my religious upbringing, my parents were clueless, and I was able to sneak movies here and there. Like when you have religious parents and they're like, "We're gonna get cable," that's stupid. If you don't want to, if you are a religious parent and you don't want to corrupt your young mind, don't get cable in the 80s. That's the worst thing you could do to your kid.
Pretty
I mean,
much.
I'm thankful for it. So,
You know what's funny? I wasn't in the 80s, but my dad did something very 80s esque in 1994. It's one of my earliest memories. You ever seen that movie Stay Tuned with
yeah, yeah,
John Ritter? My dad
yeah.
had one of those antennas in the house.
Oh,
Those really
nice.
big UFO looking antennas. He had
Yeah.
one, and the only reason he's like, dude, he's like, son, you could get channels all the way from Guatemala with this thing in China. This thing was amazing. I'm like, oh, why'd you take it down? He goes, it encroached a neighbor's yard, and it's the only place it would get signal, and it just went over his yard by like 2 inches, and the guy made me take it down because he didn't want it
Oh,
there. I'm like, you should have just offered to hook him up. He's like, I did, but he didn't want to be hooked up, so he's like, I
who,
lost on all that good stuff right there.
who doesn't want to get hooked up with a Brazilian melodrama? You
People,
know, like that's like I would love to watch like a Sudanese action crime drama, episodic. That would be fantastic.
yeah, especially in the 90s, that's when all those good things were
Yeah.
coming out in Asia. And my dad's like, yeah, we can't watch it. They took it down. He's like,
Oh
that cable,
man.
he's like, that thing was sick. It cost me a lot of money. He goes, we were getting HBO back before you had, like back in the day, you could either pay to have access, but if you had a powerful enough antenna, you could get it. That's how it used to be back in the day. And then
Ah.
he was able to score it, to my understanding, and then they took it away from him. But he goes, in those years, he's like, this is how you kids were introduced to a lot of good movies, because he's like, we had it on Showtime on the antenna. So he's like, we were watching My Bloody Valentine. I was seeing it when I was in the first grade. Harry Gordon, great movie. And then, what I want to ask you with the 80s is, what was one of the films that you found back in the day that you're like, you actually fed me in just right? What was one of the films you found back in the day that you knew your parents were like, I wouldn't, your parents wouldn't want you watching it, but you knew, like, yeah, if they find out, I'm screwed, so I'm going to keep this one to myself?
So, oh man, there are quite a few movies, but the number one that comes to mind was Nightmare on Elm Street 3. It was
Ooh.
showing on one of the premium cable, maybe it was HBO. I can't remember which one it was. Um, but I would sneak downstairs to our TV room, which was essentially just our living room. But I would sneak down late at night because my parents both had to get up early for work, so they went to bed like 9:30, 10 o'clock. And so if I could sneak down. And I remember watching Nightmare on Elm Street 3. It was one of my first introduction. It was my second real introduction to Freddy Krueger. And I'm watching it out of my peripheral because I'm also watching the stairs
Mm-hmm.
and listening and listening, like waiting for those footsteps because I didn't want to get caught. But had my dad caught me watching that, I probably, I don't know. I'd have a lot more lumps in my head than
Yeah,
I
it's about to
do.
tell. I was about to leapfrog off that. When we were kids, for anybody listening to this, just so you understand, like why horror has its rep. You would think you were watching a porn or something like that. When certain parents caught you watching certain horror movies, you were gonna get it. So when there were some movies, right, that were on the do not watch list for me as a kid. One of them was Silent Night, Deadly Night. That was still really little. They're like, we don't want to ruin Santa for you.
Oh yeah.
That one was like on the do not fly list. But then the other one, which I won, it was I never finished. I would always start watching it, and then somehow the fairy would come and interrupt my time. Sleepaway Camp.
Oh yeah.
That
Yeah.
one
That's
was always on the do not watch list. But to go back to you with the Freddy Krueger. So Elm Street 3. I actually want to ask you a question about this.
Okay.
Uh, I've always said this comment, but maybe you understand where I'm coming from. To me, when I was a kid, that was as close to an X-Men movie as we were gonna get growing up. The Dream Warriors one. It was like when I was a kid, that one had that vibe of everyone's got special powers and we're all going up against a supervillain and we all have to work together. But
Yeah.
that's why I always held on to that one. But to you, like, how did you feel about that one with the effects? Because to me, like, that is pretty much the formula Freddy Krueger would follow from moving forward in that series.
Right. So that's an interesting film because it is a epic hero journey where it's your Conan, it's your X-Men, it's every epic hero team movie story that we've seen where you have your leader and she assembles her team to support her and back her up and fight whatever evil is out there. And as you had pointed out, they kind of went with that formula from then on, but it's a complete departure from the first two. Um, and I think that's kind of what makes it so popular, um, because it is that team adventure and it's that X-Man esque, team of good fighting a supervillain. And I've never really thought about it until you just said something. But it is an ultimate horror adventure epic team up movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even think about it.
Yeah.
You even have the professor who's like kind of telling them, like, okay, you all have your dream abilities. We have to figure out how to unlock it.
Right.
We have
Yeah.
they're all kind of stuck at the school together. Like they can't really leave the school because the parents have pretty much turned their backs on all of them, so they can't do anything other than just be there at the school on the watch. They have their special strengths together. I was like, wait a minute. No wonder I gravitated towards this movie a lot. This was just, and even after those crappy '90s X-Men movies came out, I'm like, this is still as close as we were gonna get, with an actual
Yeah.
menacing villain that is on the backdrop the entirety of his time. But
And how weird is it that he would have claws and probably the most popular X-Men has claws
oh yeah, he
on
is
his hands.
definitely the most popular X-Men around here, Wolverine.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So,
I may not be a fan of Hugh Jackman's performances anymore, and I have said horrible things about Ryan Reynolds because I'm like just tired of Ryan Reynolds. You know, when you just get tired of someone, like you see him every so often in a movie every year, I'm like, I'm tired of you. You keep making the same movie. I am tired of dealing with you.
oh yeah, I've always chalked it up as, oh, it's Van Wilder. Van Wilder
Yes.
waits tables. Van Wilder becomes a superhero. Van Wilder uh, marries his boss. I don't know.
Yeah, Van Wilder has a kid. Van Wilder, like I'm like, okay, how Van Wilder saves is out there with Pokemon in this movie today, and Van Wilder
Van
hangs out
Wilder, the
with.
Pokemon.
That's what that was, wasn't it? Detective Pikachu is Van Wilder the Pokemon.
Yeah, it was. Holy shit. Yeah. But
Not,
that's, yeah. I've always kind of, I've
okay,
always
so
kind of,
I'm not alone in this because I have been told to stop bad mouthing Ryan Reynolds, but today I am accompanied with someone who's equally as annoyed at Ryan Reynolds as I am. I just have to
now,
retract the statements I've said about him. They're a little extreme.
Ryan Reynolds, if you're listening, and you want to, I don't know, work out some kind of partnership with Aviation Gin, I mean, I can retract everything I said, and
Yeah.
I will completely fanboy you until the end of time. But I need that gin because I like to make gin drinks, and it's
If you
actually a
give me
decent
free
gin.
gin, I am also not above retracting all my awful statements as well. I need a bunch of bottles for my wedding that's coming up, so I want some free gin too.
Yeah.
I'm there. I will
Yep.
retract all. I will go back and scrub all the episodes. 30 episodes. I will scrub them for free stuff. I am not above free stuff. Same goes for Vince McMahon. if you want to buy out this podcast for a couple $1,000,000, I will sell it to you, and I will vow to never make a bad comment about you again. I need money. All right. Yeah, that's another one of the guys I hate around here, Vince McMahon, for obvious reasons.
Oh, that's the wrestling dude, right?
Yeah, that's the owner of
Yeah.
WWE. I've always
Yeah.
hated him. He ruined a friendship because I had a friend who was like, you know how like we were talking about it a little bit before off the podcast, how some folks are like cultists for Trump.
Oh
and
yeah.
all this.
Yeah.
So this guy was a cultist for WWE, and one day he wanted to be on this podcast with us, but he wanted to change it. He wanted it to be about wrestling entirely. That's what he wanted, to switch it from horror to wrestling. And I'm like, why would I do that? Oh, because then we can talk wrestling. I'm like, why don't you start your own TikTok and do that? He goes, no, because you have followers. I go, yeah, but they follow me because I talk about horror, not about wrestling. That's not how that works. And then one day he just lost his mind and started threatening us. And we're like, okay, yeah. I'm like, I watch wrestling. Why don't we talk about Japan wrestling? It's great. No, just WWE. Just watch that with me. We don't want to. And then one day he went really, really off the rails, and we're like, yeah, sorry, partner. We're cutting you out here. I made a vow never to talk about him again, but it's out there. He's out there. I did it. Damn guy.
Yeah, wow.
But on a lighter note, aside of these cultists, please, Ryan Reynolds, we want free gin. You have these characters with the puppets, because you have your rogues gallery of puppet characters. So the one I really, 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 really want to get to know is, how did Cecil Candybottom come to be?
Oh, it was spooky season 2022. I had begun to get a little bit of a following on TikTok. And every spooky season, my favorite candy, and when I say this, it is not hyperbole, it is not an exaggeration, candy corn is my favorite candy of all time.
Oh, man.
I love candy corn.
I like candy corn.
And I can only get it during spooky season. Usually like end of August, beginning of September through November. There's just a small window where it's, and when I say I like candy corn, it's got to be the Brock's. I don't like the cheap knockoff stuff. It's the Brock's or Breaks. It's Brock's.
I forgot how
Brock's
you say it. I
candy
just call
corn.
it
Yeah.
Brock.
Yeah. So I had made a TikTok, and I'd stitched a TikTok, and someone goes, "What's your favorite Halloween candy?" And so I was like, "Oh, candy corn." The number of comments that I got from people be like, "Oh, we're gonna yuck your yum." I was like, and half these people are like, "York peppermint patties." Talk about the most basic bitch answer that you could ever go with. Like, get the fuck out of here. Anyways, so I was sitting there getting all this candy corn hate, and I was like, I gotta do something. And so I'm like scrolling through the internet, and I'm looking for a shirt. The whole thing started with search for the perfect shirt. And I wanted, a candy corn on it, and just something witty or clever to I could wear and just be like, fuck you and your opinion. So I'm on the shopping tab of Google, and I see a candy corn puppet, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Is this real life? So I see it, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy it. And I bought it. And he shows up, and I'm looking at him, and I'm just like, what can I do? How can I turn this into something? And that very day, someone had left a shitty comment about candy corn tasting like wax. So I put the puppet on my hand, set up the camera or the phone to record the TikTok. I don't know where the voice came from. It's the first voice that came to mind, and it just stuck. And Cecil Candybottom was born, clapping back at some idiot who said that candy corn tastes like wax, which how would you know what wax tastes like? Do you eat candles? Like that's kind of weird. It's like, oh no, I had the wax lips on. Yeah, did you eat the wax lips though? Did the old candies that you weren't supposed to chew them up and eat them?
Yeah,
I
you're just
didn't.
supposed to lick on them. You're not supposed to bite down.
Yeah, you're not supposed to bite down. Like it's weird that so many people eat have tasted candles or cheap crayons or ate their wax lips. It's really weird to me, but that's on them. So
I mean,
and that's how.
I'm guilty of it. The nickel nips one time I overbit, and then it was stuck in my mouth for like
I,
about like 5 minutes, and that's how I know how it tastes like.
I,
But that's not a happy moment, and I'm not proud to admit to that. That was
that's
just
okay.
me.
It happens. It happens.
Mm.
But yeah, that's how Cecil Candy Bottom. And then so the name I wanted. So Cecil Candy Bottom, CC Candy Corn. I wanted to kind of keep a theme going on. Don't know where Cecil came from. It was just the first C name that popped in my head.
But it works so
And
well, though.
I don't. Yeah, it's weird how it just all kind of came together. My disdain for candy corn haters really gave birth to, and people would send me memes and like videos constantly, like the Lewis Black comedian, his little rant about candy corn. Like they send that to me all the time. Oh, hey, and I was like, and just my rage was because nobody says, oh, Reese's peanut butter cups, that can't really be your favorite. Gross. It's so gross. Chocolate and peanut butter. Like, nobody does that. But with candy corn,
It's like a
everyone,
meme to hate on it. That's what sometimes gets to me. It's like you can't pick something else to hate on. You just have to pick on candy corns because you see everybody else doing it. You're like,
right.
well, it sucks. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't like pineapple on pizza, but you know
Oh,
something? I just hate pineapples due to a personal reason, not because of their flavor. I don't tell you, ew, how can you eat that? Like, all right, go ahead, eat it. Eat your disgusting candy and enjoy yourself.
right.
I'm gonna be over here
Exactly.
in my corner, not eating the disgusting candy. Is it that
Yeah.
hard? But it is. So I don't know why. But what's funny is when they encounter folks like you, where you didn't take that and go like, "Oh my God, let me take this down." No, you're like, oh, "Okay, thank you. You just gave me more ammo."
You helped, all the candy corn haters helped create Cecil Candy Bottom. Like, they are the inspiration. They were, and my wife constantly tells me, she's like, you are the pettiest person in the world. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, we were in my collection where I kept my collection or whatever. She's like, you have a Rob Zombie shelf. And I was like, yeah, I do. She's like, Rob Zombie's not your favorite director. I was like, that is correct. And she's like, you really like some of his movies, but they're not your favorite movies. I was like, that is correct. She's like, you bought each of these figures just to be petty and to put them in videos and to have them in the background just to remind people. And I was like, true. She's like, Cecil, you bought the Cecil to be petty and clap. I was like, that is true. That is true. She's like, I married the most petty human being on the planet. And I was like, you kind of did. And I do that constantly. I am so petty, and that's kind of the birth of a lot of my characters.
Just pettiness.
Is just sheer pettiness, and just wanting to display that petty for the world to see.
But that's the best way to be, though. Like
Oh,
I have a friend of mine who she calls herself Petty Mayonnaise, and I'm like, well, yeah, no, it's better to be petty because when you're petty, people mess with you less. A and B, they're just giving you more ammo. That's all they're really doing.
yeah,
They're not really getting to you. They're just giving you more to work with. Especially when they don't think you're gonna. They think you'll let it go, and then like, oh no 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 no, I didn't let it go, buddy. I just put it in a drawer somewhere for references for later. It's not over.
No, right, right. I have a filing cabinet and it is full.
Yeah.
It's almost cartoonish. All my little pettiness and all my little I'm gonna clap back eventually. It's like a filing cabinet and there's like papers hanging out of the sides.
Yeah, it's like
There's a
I'll get to you.
stack.
It's not over. I didn't forget. I just have some more pressing matters at hand. You're not
I'll
that
get
high
to
on the
you.
totem list right now. Just
Right,
wait.
right. Yeah, that's
Cecil
how
will
I
get to
operate.
you. That is awesome because that I remember when Cecil was popping up on my feeds. I'm like, wait, where did he get this? I've like, there's a puppet shop in the village I used to go to, and I would never see a candy corn puppet. And it's so simple. I'm like, did he make it or did he find this puppet? Like, I need to know how this one happens. It's like that puppet is pretty much parroting the exact same things that people who have to defend candy corns think. They're like, why should I have to defend me liking a candy? Go away. It's just me liking candy. I'm not bothering anybody. Go away. But then people get on your face about it. Like, I don't understand why. It does. Am I hurting you? You know what's a candy that you should really hate? That people, I think, everyone around the world should universally despise and go. Don't riot at your local politician's house. Go riot at these people's candy's house. Good and Plenty. I
Oh,
absolutely do not like that candy.
oh.
You like Good and Plenty?
I do. I like the and I like
Oh,
pineapple on pizza too. I have the
oh.
weirdest taste.
They got to you too, didn't they? With Good
Oh,
and Plenty people.
I love
Uh,
black licorice though. So
all right, fine.
yeah,
I
I
retract my previous statement in one
no no
episode,
no
two
no.
retracting.
Come riot, and
Fine.
face the full fury of Cecil Candy Bottom in person.
Wait, Cecil likes black. Does Cecil defend black licorice or does the bat defend black licorice? Which one defends the black licorice? I'm curious.
Well, Cecil's kind of the candy. He's the candy guy.
All right, so
So
he's the candy gatekeeper. All right,
yeah,
he's angry
yeah,
Willy Wonka.
he is. He is. And another great thing about Cecil, and now having introduced a few more puppets, is when you clap back on people on social media, and it's a puppet clapping back, like it puts
That
them in
pisses
this
him off
awkward
even more.
position. It puts them in an awkward position. Do I argue with the puppet online? Like, am I going to have a back and forth with a puppet online? I know there's a human operating that puppet, but still, it's the appearance. It's like getting in a beef with Kermit the Frog. You know, like who does that? Like nobody wants to do that. And so, yeah, Cecil's a great. Actually, all the puppets are a great tool for shutting people down.
Yep, it's an awesome way to de-escalate because it's like, wait, do I stoop to argue with the puppet or do I let it go? Mm. I want to
Just let
argue
it
about
go.
Rob Zombie's jaws, but it's a puppet. It's a puppet. Do I want to yell at a puppet?
Oh,
It is like one of the most awesome shutdowns. The lady who hates the candy corn would love you. You'd be like, wait a minute, I can just use a puppet to piss people. You know, she bought a book the other day. Basically, how to upset men. Someone wrote this book, and like one of the first things she sends me is, check it out. I'm gonna actually say this to somebody. When you see a man wearing a jersey, just go up to him and say, "Oh, that's a nice cosplay." And they're like, "That's not a cosplay; it's a jersey." Well, you're not very good at sports, and you're not on that team, so yeah, you're cosplaying as an athlete. And I'm like, you know what the worst part about it? She's like, what? How can you argue with that? You're not on a team. You're just wearing a. Just because I wear a sports jersey, but it's not because I play on the Argentinian soccer team. I just like watching them play. She's like, yeah, well, some people tend to think when they win, they go, we won. Like, no, you didn't. You weren't on the field. They won.
right, right. Yeah, and I have a few jerseys myself that I wear. Like hockey season, I'm supporting my St. Louis Blues, and if someone, I would love for someone to say, "Nice cosplay," because I'd be like, "Thanks." You're gonna do a TikTok? Take a picture for the gram, like
It would be
RLEE
awesome.
cosplaying the St. Louis Blues.
You know what? Wasn't there a Rob Zombie movie that got canceled that he was working on about a hockey team a couple years ago?
Yes, well, it was his dream project.
Yeah,
It had nothing to do with horror. Shoot, why I can't? It was about a seven. It was about '70s, a couple hooligans that were, I want to say for the Phillies, for the Philly Flyers.
It wasn't. I think it
Um,
was for the Flyers because I remember
yeah.
we were traveling through PA, and I remember like somebody posting to me like, "Oh, you're near where Rob Zombie is right now." I'm like, "Okay, I'm not gonna go stalk him. That's not cool." They're like, "Oh yeah, because he's working on the Philly Flyers or something like that." I remember he was working on it, and it never happened. And he said after that went failed to come to fruition, he's like, "Never again will I try to do an adaptation of something real." He's like, "Never, ever again." But to
See, and I
me,
think that's really sad because that's such a great premise and it's such a great story to be told.
yeah,
And
if
I
there's
mean,
anyone I would have liked to see Rob Zombie do a movie for, there's a famous wrestler. His name is Bruiser Brody. If there's anyone that I feel would do a very interesting retelling of Bruiser Brody, it's Rob Zombie. Because I'm pretty, he has like it. If you ever go look up Bruiser Brody and you go look up his story, he actually had a spot on Dark Side of the Ring a couple years ago. I'm
okay.
like, this era and this vibe is all Rob Zombie, and like there's a tragedy with Bruiser Brody. He was murdered.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, murdered in Puerto Rico. That's the story about Bruiser Brody. He used to go into business for himself. Like if he was found out he was going to get ripped off, he would prank the promoters. On occasion, he would do things to the wrestlers, and he would walk out, and then that would be it. And you can't take it away from him because he did show up for your show, and he was notorious for stuff like that. But what I always find like Rob Zombie would do a great story with this is he fit. If you go look at him, he looks like a character straight out of a Rob Zombie movie from that era because he was like around in the '70s, '80s. He
Yeah, that's
looks
awesome.
just like him. I'm like, I would
Well,
love to see that.
you know what we need to do then? We need to start pushing for Rob Zombie to make a whole series of sports movies. We got a hockey movie, we got a wrestling movie. I
Ooh,
don't. I think a good '70s baseball movie. Like I love baseball too. So let's. That's we should start campaigning for Rob Zombie to make a series of sports movies.
yes, we should. I want to see Rob Zombie talk about Daryl Strawberry. That would be a very interesting and long day.
Oh, I was thinking of someone a little more wholesome.
Okay.
Like,
Well, let's go with who's more wholesome. I see. This is funny. You're the guy with the evil, with the dark puppets. I'm the one with the darker sense of humor.
yeah, that's Rob Zombie's Daryl Strawberry. Like,
Rob Zombie and Barry Bonds in the Adventure of Court Time.
oh wow.
Well,
But
fine. Rob Zombie and Mark McGuire ending the streak, and we will
oh
just
god, yeah.
ignore. We'll talk about his famous World Series record, and I'm pretty sure they'll be like, "Hey, what about that time with Mark? With what was up with him and shit? I'm trying to remember the guy from the Cubs, Sammy Sosa."
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna talk about
That
their
is
infamous rivalry on TV. So I remember when I was
I
a kid, that was a big thing.
I got to live that. I actually was at 3 of those games.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Columbia is only a couple hours away from St. Louis, and we would go to St. Louis Cardinals games all the time. And when this rivalry started to spring up, I mean, we're Cardinals fans, so of course we're going for Big Mac. And so whenever the Cubs were in St. Louis, we'd make sure that we got tickets to those games, and I got to see a few of those hits. Um, yeah, that was. Oh, I remember that summer.
That
That
sounds
was
like
a crazy summer, and in Missouri, you don't have a lot of Cubs fans. That's just everyone's either a Royals fan or a Cardinals fan. But the number of disagreements, I'll put them that way. Like the number of disagreements that you would see in public, because there'd be that one dude, that one brave guy with the huevos, the cojones, wear his Cubbies hat, and just like he's going through Schnucks, the grocery store, and there's just like 10 people. Your head is dumb, and you're gonna lose, Big Mac, and you're like watching adults like yell at each other. It's kind of great. It never like escalated to anything other than yelling,
That's because
and it was.
baseball fans are of a different constitution. They're very normal people. They don't hit one another. Uh, I'm Hispanic. We went to a soccer game. I never will go back to these ever again. I had 3 incidents in one day, and I never wanted to go back again. When Latin America, Central America plays here in America,
Ah,
my brother
so
decides to wear a Costa Rica shirt, and there were 3 fights in one day. He
have you ever
wasn't in
been to
any
a
of them.
hockey game?
I want to go. I
Okay,
really want to
just,
go.
I'm gonna warn you right now. I'm gonna warn you right now. Like I don't know how it is in New York because, uh, and let's see, you got Jersey up in that area. You got the Bruins and the Rangers, and so you have that little conglomerate of great teams. But in the Midwest, like when the Chicago Blackhawks come to St. Louis, there are more fights in the stands than there are on the ice. And it's great. And I live for that. I've been in a few myself. You just, you're wearing your blues gear, your blue and your gold or whatever. And then you see the red and black and the Blackhawks. And you're like, say something. Say something. Look at me weird. Sneeze in my direction. And then
And that's all it takes.
that's all it takes. And it's like it's such a frenetic energy. Oh, I love hockey. That's why I want Rob Zombie to do his Flyers.
I was
Uh,
curious just to see him do a non-horror picture. Like that was where I'm like, ooh, this ought to be very fascinating to see him do something out of his element. And then that I don't know what it was exactly, but I remember he just popped up later on, going like, I wanted to do it. There was so much trouble to get this off the ground. So he's like, I just can't do it anymore. Yeah, I'm actually
I
really
know.
upset about that one.
I would love to win the lottery, and I would fund it.
Oh yeah, me too.
I would give him $10 million and be like, make this movie.
I would love to
Yeah.
fund his project, and I would also love to give the original guy who was the original script for Aliens 3. I'd love to give him his money. Like, yes, just make this. Abandon whatever
Oh,
project you're doing, and I want to see what your movie. Because the comic is out there for what the movie is supposed to look like.
so I love Alien 3. I'm one of those people that I really, really, really like that. I like that movie over Aliens.
Really?
And yeah, because it's dark. It's this mix of thriller and horror and just this dark, grimy, dirty movie. Like I can smell it, and it doesn't smell good. Like that's what I love about that movie. And it's got elements of the slasher genre thrown in there, which I love. Just everything about it is for me works really well. I'm a huge Alien 3 fan.
So in one shot, we have you liking Aliens 3. What is your thought on one of the other trilogy films that a lot of people don't? I personally am a big fan. Halloween 3. What are your thoughts on that one?
Oh, Halloween 3 is not only the most Halloweeniest movie of the whole franchise, but it's also the best sequel, in my opinion.
I actually did like that one a lot. I actually tell people this. This is the best way I can describe my feelings towards Halloween. If it was named anything else, that movie would have been franchised to nobody's end, or it would be one of the top 5 movies of the '80s. But because it had Halloween attached to it, I feel that a lot of people, and I was like, once upon a time, I was like, oh, they're just misinformed, but everyone seems to be misinformed still to these days, anyways. Went in there thinking they were going to see more Michael Myers, and they didn't get it. So then they were just obviously angry about it. But I personally think if we would have just called it Season of the Witch and knocked off the Halloween title, I think that movie would be sitting differently in people's rankings of the '80s. Although now I think it gets more love than it did when it first came out, personally.
Oh, absolutely. Well, part of the problem, I love history and I love the history of horror and horror films. A very interesting aspect of history that I like to get into is how, like, why do certain movies fail but then build cult followings? 1982 is the thing. Halloween 3. House of a Thousand Corpses. You know, there's this litany of horror movies that have well past their release have gained more support than it could have ever expected. And interesting fact about Halloween 3 is that it was advertised as a Michael Myers
So it was
film.
advertised as a Michael Myers movie.
Right. So they used Michael Myers in some of the newspaper ads. Um, they use the clip of Michael Myers coming down the stairs that you see uh,
It's in the
Tom
trailer.
Atkins.
It's in the trailer in the movie, right?
Yeah, it's in the trailer of the movie. Like, so they were trying to capitalize on the success of Halloween and Halloween 2, and they did not think the movie itself could have would have done as well without attaching Michael Myers in some way to it. And so you see a lot of early ads with um, Michael Myers included. Like, there's one. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you. There's an old newspaper ad, and it's got Michael Myers in the mask within the three little silver shamrock masks underneath it. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. What does that tell you? That tells you that there's Michael Myers, and then there's some other masks, but you're still associating Michael Myers to that.
Yeah, it makes you think that three other mass killers are going to be joining him in the mayhem. That's what
Yeah,
it
yeah,
makes you think.
something. Yeah, there's something gonna happen, but Michael Myers is definitely involved, and he gets like 2 seconds of screen time.
And it's not
But
even
I
really
love that movie.
him. Okay, now I understand why people were upset. But honestly, though, I think it would have done well had they just put it on its own. Because Tom Atkins was he still is. I still like Tom Atkins. Whenever I see him in a movie, I get excited. I can't remember what thing I saw him pop up in a couple of years ago. I'm like, "Ooh, Tom Atkins," and my wife is like, "Who's that?" I go, you know what? It's time for me to show you the fog. She lasted 10 minutes in the fog, and she's like, okay, I get who he is. I'm out of here.
Oh, another great
I
movie.
love that movie. I don't like Jamie Lee Curtis very much, but I did like the fog.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure you already know my feelings on
Yeah, and
Jada.
we share it here.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
share it here on the Gassy Hallows. I have encouraged folks to do things to her car should they see it. You know, just go and put a Halloween bumper sticker on her car or some kind of thing because, you know, she just absolutely despises the genre for no reason. Like you didn't have to. You were in the films, fine, whatever. But there's no need for you to just be so abrupt and cut off about it. It's just wrong, you know. You
Well,
just fight it
you
like
know,
that.
in Hollywood, like actors have to not only sell their projects, they have to sell themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this, and I don't know if it's a positive or a negative, or maybe it's a neutral comment. Jamie Lee Curtis is really good at selling herself,
She is.
and so it's a tag. Like I don't think I've ever seen an interview with her that is truly genuine. Jamie Lee Curtis. I think we get whatever version of Jamie Lee Curtis she needs to portray for whatever she's working on. Like the Borderlands thing, which I never saw the movie because fuck Jamie Lee Curtis and fuck Eli Roth.
And I
But
had no interest in seeing that one either.
I did see a couple interviews uh, done, and again she's continuously acting, and in this interview she's not being genuine about herself, or she's just selling herself, and selling herself in order to sell the movie, which I get it, it's part of the game. um, I don't expect all my actors to be genuine people. Like, you you get to your point, you get to a point of fame, I guess, or recognition, and you are beholden to this image, and you got to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think she hates the genre. I don't think it's her favorite, but I don't think she hates it as much as. But every time she says that, guess what happens? We all start talking about her.
I
Like,
know.
ooh, Jamie Lee Curtis. And so she's getting what she wants. And so brilliantly done on her part.
We
It
just
just,
gave her about 5 more minutes of exposure.
I know, I know.
Goddamn Jamie Lee Curtis, you did it again.
But I'm gonna make bumper stickers. I'll have them available, and it's like I love horror, and I'll just send them out to people. And if
I
you see
want
Jamie
some.
Lee Curtis, just throw it on her car.
So, speaking of people who love and hate horror, and I just came across this right now. So, the way I came in contact with you was with one of the most unlikeliest zombie movies of all time, Wild Zero. So, as I come
Yeah,
across it, I want to thank you because you brought me into horror talk when you friended me and reshared that one that time.
nice,
So,
nice, yeah.
thank you for all of that. You are indirectly responsible for the Ghastly Hollows podcast, so you're fully aware.
Oh wow.
Yep, because I that day, every after you shared it, I started getting more and more followers, and then I'm like, what do I do now? Because I just keep uploading video clips, and I don't know what to do. To which point, I'm thinking about what do I do? Do I do a podcast? Do we talk horror? And then that sort of began there after being introduced to horror talk, thanks to you. So I want to take
Aw.
that time right now to thank you and Wild Zero for giving me that push when that first started. So with that one, the Wild Zero, I want to ask you, how does Honker S. Clownson, the second inspiration for me, how is he born?
Okay. So as as most people know, I love clowns. If you've been around my content
Oh yeah, no. I
at a
wanted to ask you about each and every clown, but I feel like that's going to be a two-parter. So I'm like, let me pick the main ones, and if you had
yeah.
fun today, we can come back. And my other colleague who also likes doing haunts, and he's worked at a haunt, you and him can go back and forth on the clowns.
Oh, okay.
He's like
Well,
Ned Flanders incarnate, so you'll have fun.
that, yeah. Um, yeah, I've always loved clowns. And I've tried to maintain a little bit of distance with my worldviews and political beliefs because I know that sometimes that can be alienating to some. Um, and but I wanted a way to comment on things that I saw,
Hmm.
and I read every Hunter S. Thompson book there is. I've consumed so much Hunter S. Thompson in my life, and that started back with the book Hell's Angels in high school. It was my first introduction to Hunter S. Thompson. I loved the way he wrote. I at one time wanted to be a writer, and so uh, I I picked up this habit that actually Hunter S. Thompson used to do. Believe it or not, is I would rewrite portions of his books, and he used to do the same thing. He used to type out Hemingway and Wagner and all these just to kind of elicit some kind of creative spark. And when you're writing someone else's words like verbatim, and when you're copying them down, you get a sense of that thinking process because you're not just copying. You know, you're paying attention to what you're writing. Obviously, you want to make sure the spelling's right and everything else.
It's like retreading the footsteps. That's how I like to see
Yes,
it.
yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. And I loved Hell's Angels. I loved his writing style, so I started consuming everything I could. And then, as I'm consuming like Fear and Loathing on the campaign trail, I'm noticing this disturbingly accurate uh, point of view or worldview that he had. The things he was talking about, like in the 70s, you know, like 8 years before I was even born, I'm having those same thoughts about at the time, at the time, what was currently going on in the United States, and so his views of politicians, especially, like, I was like, I think that stuff too. That's how I see today's politicians. Like, he's talking about Richard Nixon and everyone else, and McGovern. I'm sitting here going, I'm having these same thoughts about, politicians at the time. Like, remember, the big one was like George W. Bush.
Yep.
And so I was like, this is insane. And so I've always been a fan. And when I finally got on social media, I was like, I need some way to maybe express some of these thoughts or these reactions, but I don't want it to be incredibly abrasive. And I had a video that went kind of viral when the lead singer of Trapped, the band Trapped,
Oh, I
told
remember that.
told me to get out of the country because I'm not a true American.
It's such a
So
common thing for those people to say.
yeah, but it was crazy for me because as I'm reading, and I got thousands of comments on that, and I'm reading some of them, and one of the big one was calling me a clown, and I was like, I can work with this. I get kind of like with Cecil.
They're just
I was
giving
like,
you eggs
how
for
am
the
I
batter, man.
how am I going to how do I respond, and how do I take whatever their personal attack, and how do I basically crush it and take away any power that it could possibly have. So I took Hunter S. Thompson and I took a clown, threw them together, and then you got Honker S. CLOWNSON.
It's such a catchy way of doing it too. Like I have to give a lot of credit because Honker S. CLOWNSON is such a clever way of playing on the words for Hunter S. Thompson. It's like I when I saw that I'm like, this is really catchy. It works. And then I also saw the full makeup for Honker S. CLOWNSON, and I'm like, yeah, every single thing works. I have a feeling if Hunter S. Thompson himself could see this, he'd probably be like, I want to be on here with you. At least just for a second. I want to be a part of this. If you were to see that.
Well,
It fits.
and he had a very comedic way of responding to people. One of some of my favorite Hunter S. Thompson writings, believe it or not, come from his letters when he's returning an item to like Sears. Like, because back in the day, you couldn't just take it to the store. You had to send it. Especially if you ordered it, you'd have to write a letter and include it with the reasons why you're returning it. And some of his responses, like there was one about a jacket, and he's like, "I'm not entirely sure this is leather. And it looks like leather, but it doesn't smell like leather. It doesn't feel like leather, and the color." You're telling me this is going to be this color, but it's not this color. It's that color, and I'm just highly disappointed. I'd like a refund. And it's just this comedic, frenetic energy, like in his writings, and I was like, he's kind of a clown. And
He's a troll in an
he,
era before trolling was a known thing. It's an arch troll.
and it's crazy because when you watch the documentaries about him, like his wife and his ex-wife both said the same thing. They're like, there were two versions of Hunter. There was the performative Hunter, and then there was a real Hunter. And just like with my character, Honker is just it's performative. I'm I don't want people to figure out exactly how I think and exactly what I believe, because I want that conversation to be initiated and opened. Well, Mr. Clown, what do you believe? I want that to happen. It rarely does happen, but
No, every time I see you post something, I just see people upset when you post. Like the people who ever, like full disclosure, the most recent one I've seen was the people with the coyotes.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and it's like I'm sitting there looking at that myself, and I go, why would you do that to a bunch of coyotes? Like, what's going on? But I'm every time I go and I see folks responding, they just keep responding back like, well, you just don't get it. I'm like, no, we get it. Just stuff like that isn't cool, or you're trying
Right,
to
right, right,
debate.
right.
That's not cool.
Yeah, you don't get it. No, no, we get it. You all are psychopaths. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm understand. Like, we've established that, and we have that understanding. Um, but that's the whole point, and that's another thing about Honker is he's just pointing out the glaringly obvious. So, like, and this might ruffle a few feathers, but someone had said, and this was in kind of light of the Arlington Cemetery uh,
Oh yeah.
thing that happened. Someone goes, well, I don't see you posting anything else about anyone else, and I was like, okay, I got you. And the next video was in reference to Barack Obama. What Trump did, I think is wrong. What Obama did, I think is wrong. Two people can be wrong at the same time for the wrong thing.
Yeah. It's an
And,
overall thing. It's just not something you should do.
right, right. And everyone's like, oh, well, whatever, clown. And I'm,
Yes. Whatever, clown.
yes, yes, okay, you got it. But the point is still not settling in your tiny little brain because I can call out hypocrisy from either side. The problem is one side tends to be more hypocritical than the other. And or one person or one side tends to behave in such a way that it draws more attention. Like, don't worry, Honker S. CLOWNSON is fair and balanced. Unlike some of the other news outlets
Oh
that
yeah.
use fair and balanced as their little slogan.
Oh
But
yeah. I being in Missouri, you have no idea how many places I would go to where they're listening to people where they're just it's just the most imbalanced thing. Like, well, they're over here trying to take away our guns. And I'm just asking a question like, where's that initiative? I've never seen the initiative to take away our guns. Like, please tell me. Because, to own a car, which is more expensive than a gun, I need to get a license. I need to do all these things, right? I need to take an eye exam. But why is it that I can go buy a gun for like $100? Like, I don't get it. And then the people who are listening to this, they're just doing the same reaction. Huh? Can you believe that? I go, what? I'm ignoring. Like, they're trying to take these things away from us, trying to get our federal liberties away from us. I'm like, can I just have my Jiffy Lube now? Can I get my oil change, please, so I can go? I don't want to really talk about this, but it's an all-day, everyday existence of being pissed off. And I'm like, how can you be pissed off all day long? Did you have anything better to do with your time? Like, I look at you did. You created a whole character which makes fun of people just doing these weird things, and then they get mad about being called weird. Or the campaign, I think, that they were trying to go against you with your service history, which
yeah,
that was the
yeah.
one I just like, oh, here we go again. Why are you questioning his service if he keeps giving you receipts? Like, how many times are you going to deny that he's actually served when he's giving you the evidence that he has actually served? Why don't we ask the other guy if he ever really served? We just have that one picture of him at West Point. That's not. So, if you can clarify this for me, I figure you'd be able to give me a better answer. When you go to West Point Academy, that's not really service, is it?
Yes, yes, and no. So it's really weird. So cadets are, in fact, prepping for commission in the military, and they'll become commissioned officers. They fall under the rules and regulations of Department of Defense. And they are subject to those laws and regulations. So yes,
So that
in
is a
the
form.
event, so it's a form of service, and but West Point is different from other military schools and other military institutions. You have a lot of military schools. So, for example, I lived in the town where they shot Child's Play 3 at Kemper Military Institute.
Oh, you have
Um,
a lot of roots all over the place.
I do,
Yeah.
I do, and and it's right outside Columbia. It's about 30 minutes away from Columbia. But like, so Kemper Military Academy um, operated in a way that emulated the military and the military lifestyle, but they were not actually, in fact, military. They wouldn't be called upon by the state or the federal government to go fight a war or anything like that. West Point is a little bit different in the sense that um, it has direct ties to the military. So, um, but most military academies, like the picture that Honker had posted on there was of Trump at a military academy, not West Point. So it fell under one of those. And the weird thing is he was there like 5 years, I think, like 13 to 18, something like that. Um, but he never actually served. Like, if you go to a military school or a military academy like that, you're not actually serving. You're Look, if anyone listening is I do not mean this in a derogatory way, so take it with a grain of salt. You're cosplaying military.
Yeah.
You're you're going through the actions. You're wearing the cool uniforms and everything else, but you're not actually military. You are operating in a military style, but you're not actually military. Like,
Yeah, there's no
they're not.
activation or anything like that. They're
Right,
just
right.
training and disciplined, but that's about it. They're not actually being summoned. Uh, like my buddy, right? I think he was in the National Guard for a little while, and when one of the hurricanes started, he was activated. He's like, all right, they want us to go because, hurricane season is up. We have to go somewhere where, like, the town got hit. Here during Sandy, one of my friend's husbands, he's in the Marine Corps. Also, same thing, like when the hurricane hit, they're like, all right, yeah, time to deploy, because you have to go to the areas to just help maintain order and
Right.
stuff like that. But when you're in
Yeah.
an academy, that doesn't happen. You're going through the routines, PT, and that's about it. That's how I
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah, yeah. You get the haircut. You get to wear the cool uniforms. Maybe you do some basic rifle marksmanship. You know, you do military stuff, but you're not actually military. Like, they have their own whole ranking system. I remember, where was I? I was in Kentucky. I was at Fort Knox, and we were out on lunch one day, and a bunch of military academy students just happened to go to the lunch at the same place. And I'm sitting there. It was a buffet style thing. I'm sitting there, and this little cadet kid comes, like, kind of pushing through. I was like, "Excuse me," and he looks at me. He goes, "At ease." Who the fuck you talking to, man? Like,
I just heard that, like,
like,
oof.
I will take you by your neck, and I will throw you through the snot shield of the salad bar, and I'm just gonna spoon feed you goddamn honey mustard dressing until you explode. Like, it was just, but that's kind of an example of that mentality. And sometimes, for the majority of people who are unfamiliar with military, uh, they don't have family, they never served, or whatever. It's easy to kind of lump anything that seems military into into this idea that, oh, that's what the military is. But people that know, you kind of know. I'm my cousin was an officer in the Navy. He was a doctor. He is a doctor. Navy paid for his med school. He was a cadet. Then he commissioned as an officer and served in the Navy for like 5 years as a doctor. And I remember one Thanksgiving, the whole family's together, and my dad's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, what are you talking about?" He's like, "You're not going to salute your cousin." I was like, one, neither one of us are in uniform. Two, he's in the fucking Navy. I'm in the Army. I don't give a shit about the Navy. Fuck that squid. I'm like, "Oh, you can't do that." And my cousin's looking at me like, "What's wrong with our family?" And I was like, "I have no idea." Like,
It's just bite-sized bits of conduct because it's actually really funny. My wife's husband, my friend's husband is in the Army. His brother is in the Navy, and I think her father served in Nam as a Marine, if I'm not mistaken. I'm never sure because he likes to mess with me. Every time I tell him something, he changes it on me on purpose, and then he squeezes my hand really hard when he shakes my hand. Yes, Mr. Brick, if you hear this, you caused my hand to have twisted pretzel syndrome. All right, so
definitely Marine. I'm just going to say that right now. Yeah,
more than likely, but the first time I shook his hand, he's like, "That's a limp handshake." I'm like, "Okay." I give him a hard one, and then he goes harder. I'm like, "Uh-oh, I messed up. I done fucked up." But the three of them are in the same branches, but the two brothers, they're always kind of like one thing after another. Like, you're in the Army, and then I'm in the Navy, and like they're very different in attitudes. And then once in a blue, I have my friend who I've told you about. He's in the Marine Corps. He'll kind of look down his nose, and it's always a mindset. But he's like, all of this is just for fun. We always look down, but in the reality is we're all in the same thing. But he's like, we don't have to. We're not. He's like, first thing, we don't wear our uniforms off base unless we have to. We don't do any of that other stuff, where like we're all about this stuff. He's like, half the time when we leave the base, we're done. He's like, it's a very nice thing to just go the hell home, and that's it. The only way people tend to spot us in public, he goes, is when the haircuts and the dog tags are out. I'm like, that's it? He's like, that's it. Hair tag.
Or if it's an 18-year-old kid and he's driving like a 2024 Dodge Charger. Like that's kind of that's a good dead giveaway right there.
That's the other one, yeah, he mentioned. But he's like, I'm never gonna have he's still, I think, enlisted. I think he's in San Diego or something like that. He's like, I'm never gonna have any of that stuff. But he goes, when we're out of here, he's like, we're out of here. We're proud to do what we did because it's a pain to get all that stuff done. We're lucky to have come home. But then he's like, well, He's like, I don't want this to be everything that I do. Like, this is it. But then you find some of these people that like, oh, how do I know you haven't served? Why aren't you wearing all of your stuff all the time? It's like, that's not. You don't wear it all day long. We're normal people, just like you and me, like you.
Well, you got out of the Army 10 years ago. Why aren't you cutting your hair the same way?
Because you don't have to. It's like,
right.
I did my time. That's it. It's over. Like, I can go back and do what I want. That's what my friend keeps telling people. It's like, what? So that means I'm not allowed to have my regular haircut? I have to buzz it for the rest of your life? Like, yeah. Like, no. He's like, I think one of them, I know he's still on reserves. He's like, yeah, no. He's like, I keep the haircut because, I'm on reserves. But he's like, most of the time, he's like, I don't do jack. He's like, I don't even do the push-ups or anything like that. It's just done. He's like, when they call me back and they see that I've gained all this weight, they're probably going to send me back home again. They're like, oh, you're too heavy. Go back. He's like, okay, end of story. But it's really funny to see how some people, like the dude from Trapped, has the nerve to tell someone like you, yeah, get out of my country. You're not American enough. Cool.
I've never understood that mentality because, especially as an adult and having all the life experiences that I've had, like this idea of what is real and versus what, like that's like what makes a real American, what makes a real anything, and it kind of going back to horror, like what's a real horror fan? There's no definition. There's no there's no checklist that you have to go down and make sure you have, you know, 10 of the 12 boxes checked. That's not how life works. Like, I was
No,
born here. I'm a real American. There you go.
yeah. I would live
You
here my
know.
entire life, and I put money back into the system. I'm an American.
Yeah.
Like it
I'm an
is.
American. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Like
pretty much it.
yeah. What is it? One of the things that I've had to deal with, and you're like, so I'm first generation here, right? I was the first one born in this country from my end of the woods, my family. You're always like caught between heritages, whereas my parents were kind of those types. My parents are like hippies before hippies were a thing, right? They're like very oddly conservatively liberal people. I can't even begin to explain it. Like in one avenue, they didn't believe in marriage, but then in the other hand, they're also kind of like still believe in the gender norms. But then in the third hand, if you are the way you are, they just accept you and they move forward, right?
Yeah.
It's like so many things. Like, oh, okay. For example, for my dad, one time I mentioned, you know, Dad, I think I might want to write stories one day for a living. He's like, I support that. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. If you make a lot of money and you're happy doing it, why wouldn't I support you in doing that endeavor? I'm like, you're not even going to protest just a little bit? No. He's like, if you know what you're doing and you have a way of doing it, I'm going to support you in being successful, son. I love you. I'm like, oh,
That's
wow.
the way it works. Yeah.
Like,
Hell
cool.
yeah.
So, that's cool. And whenever idea that would come with them, they were fine. But then when it came to cultural things, right? My family comes from a part of Latin America that your average person has said this to me before. I'm like, so my family comes from Honduras. Cool. What part of Mexico is that in? I'm like, it's two countries away from the Mexican border, but all right. We're south of the Mexican border, but you know, okay, you do you, sir. It's its own country. So you
Uh,
come to me and go like, what's a part of Honduran culture? I can't tell you because to me, I've been raised in American culture my whole life. Like there is Honduran music and food that I can tell you about, but that's about it.
I mean,
We're the Mayans. We're the real Mayans, not what they try to say in SoCal these days. Like I've been to the Mayan ruins. That helps, but that's about it. So
yeah,
does that make me
it
un-American now? Like no.
right.
We're just
Oh yeah, it's such a weird way of looking at the world, you know. Um, and this, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this right. It's not that I see the world in a colorblind or rose tinted through rose tinted lenses, but I know that every day of my life I am going to come across someone or something that I was wholly ignorant of the day before. So, best practice, learn what you can about, whoever it is or whatever it is that you come across. Like that's the best way to go about life.
keep an
Have an
open
open
mind.
mind and just consume as much information as possible.
Yeah. Just to show you example of my family, right? I think I've said it a few times. My wife is Chinese, so we're doing a Chinese wedding. I personally am of the mindset go to the courthouse and sort life out. We're done.
Right.
But she really wants to do the whole shebang the Chinese way so that she's grown up. And I mentioned it to my family once again, right? I don't know why I keep doing this to myself. I was like, oh no, are they gonna like be a little reluctant of this whole thing? They turn around and they go, we've never done a Chinese wedding before. Oh my god, this seems very exciting. We can't wait. It's something different. It's something new. And at no point is anybody like questioning it, especially like out of me since I'm in my family I'm not a black sheep, but I do not do the same things as everybody else does. To say like to me a black sheep is someone that's not accepted in my family, even in the extended branches. They accept that I am the way that I am. For them it's not out of the ordinary to find me at a Buddhist temple somewhere in Asia taking pictures. It's not out of the ordinary for me to pop up with pictures of some random celebrity out of nowhere. Like my life is just one giant comedy movie to them. Like they just okay, it's Carlos. We're not. It's Jack. He does these things. It's normal
Yeah.
for him to do these things. So when this one came up, they're all excited. And yesterday, my parents like, all right, the only thing we want is just participate in the festivities. That's it. And everyone who I know, like, oh, your parents are totally cool. Like, yeah, they absolutely do not care. As a matter of fact, they're looking forward to eating jellyfish at the wedding. And everyone looking at jellyfish. I'm like, that is a dish that you are served, jellyfish. I have eaten stranger things. I'd rather not recount them to you, sir. Frog dick fat. Yeah, they put that in their soup for Chinese New Year. Yeah, that's a thing I ate. Frog dick fat and fish intestines that were dried up. I thought it was chicken soup, rice soup. But it wasn't. It was frog dick fat and chicken and fish guts. That's apparently good luck or something like that. I learned my lesson. Don't ask. Just eat and enjoy.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson the hard way that day. But, you know, it's an
Same.
experience. Like, how many people you know can say they've actually done that? How many people you know you can say, like, you learn about these very fascinating things that are all the way on the other side of the world that are out of your everyday norm. To me, I think the biggest problem today is that a lot of folks are afraid to leave the stoop for fear of whatever is out there. Whereas, go see the world while you can still see it while it's there. It's amazing. There's a lot of fun and interesting things. And even like with horror, one of my favorite horror places that has horror around the world, which right now, I'm going to go look for that and send it to you in a second. In Japan, Junji Ito is knocking it out of the park. We have all these really interesting things. Resident Evil came from there, and I actually, one day on TikTok stream, I'm going to play their game again, Sweet Home. Great horror movie, which I'll send you on YouTube too. Guys, just check it out. Without
Yeah.
Sweet Home, you don't get Resident Evil. And it's a great film to check out. And I would have known any of this if I would have just stuck to my simple, okay, today I'm watching Halloween again for like the millionth time.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. That is such a good point. And not just foreign horror, which I absolutely love foreign horror. Spain, Korea, and Japan, I think, are the top contenders for putting out. When Evil Lurks, that's from Argentina. Foreign horror is doing amazingly well, and it's really it's blowing my mind, and I love it.
Yep. They're knocking their stuff out of the park, whereas over here in America,
Consistently,
yeah.
and yeah.
Like, oh, here in America, how many more Conjuring movies we got?
Right,
Okay,
right.
we need to do another Conjuring movie. Let's lie about something else Ed and Lorraine Warren did today, so we can make a nice feature film out of it. Whereas it's a different story. Sorry, you're gonna ask?
Oh no, I started. We talked before the podcast. We talked about short films,
Yes.
and like independent films. Like I am being drawn further into that world right now than I am mainstream horror. Like the most recent one that come out was Speak No Evil. I remember the first one. It looks good. Like I think my wife's gonna go see it today. Yeah, she's seen it today.
That's
And
the one with James McAvoy, right?
yeah, and it looks good. It's for me that's a stream at home movie, and that's not really a go to the theater.
Yeah, there's some
You
movies
know?
where I'm like, I don't want to watch that in the theater. I'll watch it at home.
Yeah. Like my wife's totally into that stuff. Like she likes those kind of things. So like I can't wait for her to get back and call me and tell me all about it, which she will.
Please give us the good review on that one. I'm actually curious to see that one, but I'm on the same boat. Like I can kind of relax at home watching those, whereas in the theater, it's like for the theater, I'm a snob. I like to pay for the big budget movies. Like I saw Alien Requiem recently in the theater, and I'm like, first off, Fede Alvarez, it was a crime you didn't get to continue your Evil Dead films, because I actually did like his Evil Dead films, Fede Alvarez. And I'm actually sitting here going, this is the first Alien movie in a while that I have enjoyed throughout. Like, when I sat in the theater from the beginning to the end, I was thoroughly having fun watching it. My brother is not an Aliens person at all. He's never been a fan, but he actually did enjoy watching. He was the one who was like, we got to go watch this when it's good. I like Fede Alvarez. He's like, this guy's going to knock it out of the park. We got to go watch it. I'm like, okay, we're in. I'm here up in PA with you for a month. Let's go check. Let's go bang this one out. And we took our dad along with us, who's also a huge. He remembered when the first one came out. Like I
Oh
think he went
wow,
to see the first one in theaters when it came out. So
awesome.
the three of us are there enjoying this, and I'm like walking out. I'm like, you see, this is a remake. This is a sequel. In my book, I said done right. It feels right. It feels good. The shots are beautiful. You care about the characters. There's a lot of backstory to this, and it's fun. I'm like, why don't they continue this stuff anymore? My brother's like, I have no idea. But that's
And
why
it
I'll
was
pay to go see it.
yeah, and it's one of those films that you can appreciate and enjoy on the big screen.
Yes.
And I just went and saw Beetlejuice, and is it a necessary? What did we need the sequel? No, no. But I had fun with it. It was fun and cute, and I mean I'm not gonna like put it on my top anything list, but it was still and like going to the theater to enjoy that experience. That was great. Um,
That,
but some movies, nah, I'm not. I'm glad I didn't see A Violent Nature in theaters.
I still have to watch that one. It's been highly recommended to me, but my problem is when I try to watch a new movie, the wife walks in, and
Oh
then
yeah.
I'm like, do I want to spend time with my wife or do I want to watch this horror movie? Yeah. All right, I'm a pushover. Off to the wife I go. And to
Yeah.
her. And she's cool. She's like, if you really want to watch it, just tell me. I'll go do something else. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'd rather spend time with you. I spent months away from you right now, so I'd rather hang out with you. So it's all good. But that one's on my list. My brother enjoyed it, but he said the same thing you just said. He's like, I wouldn't have paid to see that in the theaters. He's like, that one is more so a nice at home. You make your own popcorn at
Yeah.
home,
Yeah.
grab a beer, and relax and watch it.
Yeah.
One I would have liked to have seen in theaters, but my environment fit way better. So if you have this kind of environment, you should watch it in this one. Did you ever see Late Night with the Devil?
Yeah. Yeah. I watched that one.
Did you see it in theaters or did you watch it at home?
I watched it at home.
So I saw
I
it for the first time in my parents' TV room,
okay. Yeah.
which matches the vibe of the 70s feel that they had going in that movie. I'm like, ooh, this actually feels eerier. It feels like I'm actually really watching this in real time. That,
Right.
but I would have enjoyed watching that one in the theater myself because that one had a very like fun vibe documentary thing going for it. But then we get movies like Deadstream. Yeah, I was glad I watched that at home. I was able to pause it a few times and then get back to it. Although I really did enjoy Deadstream. If
See,
you
and
haven't seen that
I'm the
one,
exact opposite. I would have loved to have seen Deadstream on the big screen, and I was fine watching late night on the small screen. So
did you like the effects for Deadstream? I actually did enjoy those effects for
I did,
Deadstream.
I did. I had so much fun with that because I didn't know what to expect. The first like 5-10 minutes of that movie, um, I don't know. I was like, this is gonna be so lame. Like this is just gonna be, it's just gonna be silly and ridiculous and stupid, and it is silly and it is ridiculous, but it's also so much fun. The effects are great. Like just the it's Blair Witch meets Evil Dead.
Yes.
It
It,
meets
I remember watching this movie. I'm like, yo, this feels like Evil Dead. I never
yeah,
thought I would actually say that, but this feels like an updated Evil Dead. Like this guy, the monsters are coming at him. He's kind of on his own after a few minutes. Like this is just a dude running around a house, getting the living crap scared out of him. There's demons being summoned. I'm like, this is. I go like this guy did a proper Evil Dead movie, and even though I was in the few that liked Evil Dead Rise, I did enjoy Evil Dead Rise.
oh,
It was a good film. But a lot of
oh,
people were so mad at it. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm over here watching Deadstream. This felt more like an Evil Dead movie than Evil Dead Rise did. And I'm like, that's a shame. Where the guy with the camera, a GoPro camera, did a better job than the guy with the big budget did.
You know,
Yeah.
and I loved Evil Dead Rise. Oh God, I can't stop telling people how much I love that movie.
It was a great movie, and I'm upset that the game got canceled after a while. Like I was hoping we would get
Yeah,
that level in the building, but it met its end. But I'm like,
yeah.
this is a great film. I don't know why people are mad at it. I don't understand. Bruce Campbell doesn't want to keep doing these movies anymore. You guys gotta let him go. Let Bruce
But
Campbell go.
to your point about Deadstream, yeah, it felt like a Sam Raimi, you know, Evil Dead Two, yeah, Evil Dead Two, and that for me was part of the appeal. It was that nostalgia kick, and giving me something that I was somewhat familiar with, and you made it uniquely your own, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But there's enough, and I could tell the influence, and I liked it. Unlike, and this is kind of a hot take, there's a movie called A Wounded Fawn, which is
I've heard
just,
of it.
if you take Evil Dead and make it an art house film. That's God, it's so bad. I hate that movie so much. I
I've heard
will
of it, and I haven't had a minute to watch it. But everyone who I know has seen it. They're like, this guy was up his ass when he made this movie. They're like,
absolutely.
such a pretentious movie to film. I'm like, wow, now I need
Hold
to
on.
watch this.
But the most, and I'm just because we're talking about Evil Dead. The main character's name is Bruce, and he wears like a blue shirt.
uh,
So like, and when I first saw this and I had reviewed it on another podcast, like, no, I was like, what are you talking about? Bruce, blue shirt, cabin in the woods, it's glaringly obvious, kind of like the red flags that they have a camera shot of. You know those little red triangle flags that,
yeah,
yeah. There's a shot of those just waving in the wind for like 30 seconds. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, we got it. Nice little use of symbolism.
yeah, red flag. You know what that reminds me of? You ever seen that episode of Family Guy where like Brian left his script with a number at a coffee shop and these two guys called it? They're like, "Well, we're here to yeah, no, yeah, real smart. Your character's name is John Everyman. Yeah, tell him how much it sucks. Yeah, it sucks. I'm
Yeah,
hungry." And hang up the phone. That's like the
yes.
reactions I'm hearing about this movie. It's like people are like, "Yeah, this guy really thought he was making an art project here, but no, it just."
And And you know what? And I'm glad it found its audience. I'm glad that there's people out there that like. I love when a movie can find its audience, and I love the fact that everyone doesn't like all the same things. But for me, and I try to find good things in movies all the time. But for me, A Wounded Fawn made that list of pretentious,
Bruce.
pretentious snobbery.
His name is Bruce Ernst.
Yeah,
He's an earnest man named Bruce in the woods. That's
yeah,
yeah, where yeah.
yeah. Like,
My inner snob is coming out like really hard.
I mean, I was waiting the whole movie for him just to look at the screen and be like, groovy. Like I was waiting for,
You might as well do it. I mean, at this
like,
point, it would be funnier if you just did it, right?
right.
Or just kind of keep nodding at the camera, like, no, just do it. Just say groovy into the camera. We'll
Yeah.
all laugh, we'll all chuckle for a bit, and we'll move on about our day. Kind
You
of
know
like,
what? You don't even have to say groovy. Put on a T-shirt that says groovy on it, and then, you
yeah,
know what?
like,
Yeah,
just give me the nod, and we'll be fine. The more you try to hide the nod, the more it seems like you're just trying to steal from the other guy's movie, man. Whereas if you just say it,
right.
we know you're an Evil Dead fan. Just say it, yeah, groovy, or wear the shirt that says groovy, or something. You know,
Give us a shotgun. Cut off a hand. Just
yeah,
like,
something silly. Just lose yourself. That's what the other guy does, doesn't he? Doesn't he cut off his hand or something at some point to sacrifice
yeah,
the flesh? Right? Like in Deadstream, he cuts off something, I
yeah.
remember, to sacrifice the flesh so he can get this. I'm like, there you go, there's your nod. He gave me the Evil Dead nod. Was it so hard? And he has less money than you do in your movie. And he's in the same Shutter network as you are.
Right, and it's just there's a way. So I don't. How do I always go back to Rob Zombie? Oh my, I don't know.
That's why you're his
Um,
disciple, sir.
so Rob Zombie did an interview, and I can't remember if it was Conan. He did an interview with one of the late night guys, and he goes, you know, a lot of newer bands and younger bands come up to me, and they're like, hey, you know, here's my demo. Will you check it out? And he's like, I listened to it, and I can tell you each and every one of their influences. And he said that's sometimes kind of a disappointment. And I'm paraphrasing, so don't quote this in Rob
Oh,
Zombie
good.
quotes.
We're paraphrasing Rob Zombie.
Yeah, paraphrasing Rob Zombie. And he's like, and sometimes I don't like I can listen to something for 5 seconds and go, oh, you were influenced by so and so, and he goes, and it, how did he phrase it? Anyways, he expressed that it was kind of a bummer for him. And when it comes to movies, if I can get a sense of your influence, like Deadstream, that doesn't take me out of the story that you're trying to tell, then it works. But when I watch a movie like A Wounded Fawn and say, I know every single movie that you love because you put everything into this film.
It's like a salad as opposed to its own dish.
Yes.
You know,
Oh, such a great metaphor.
I deal with a lot of food in my life,
Uh,
so
So, but you're right. You're right. Deadstream was a dish. A Wounded Fawn was your salad.
yeah. Like I actually have to say, is Rob Zombie's good at this. So you can't watch House of a Thousand Corpses and not see all the Texas Chainsaw all over it. Like when I first saw it and I was a kid, I was like, this feels like the beginning of Texas Chainsaw when you meet the family, right?
Yeah.
And you feel the influence of that. Like even when they're like, "Oh yes, he rarely dines with us." I'm like, okay, but House of a Thousand Corpses is very much its own thing, right? With Otis and the sister and Captain Spaulding, like it's very much its own thing. But you can kind of tell that the nods are there, right? The Southern hillbilly
Yeah.
nods are there. But what I like about it is although he's paying homage to this stuff, like he does have it, and it's very blatant that it's there. It's not hidden. Even in the sequels, like he starts to bring in all of the classic horror actors. With Ken Foree, John Cherry makes a cameo. Uh, Fun fact: I didn't know this until I was an adult. The sheriff who gets killed in the first House of a Thousand Corpses is Tom Knowles. I'm not sure
Uh
if I
huh.
got the name right. So he's the Harry in the remake for Night of the Living Dead in 1990. I did not know
Yeah.
that until it was too late.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. He's so. Oh, absolutely. And I can appreciate that in when a filmmaker pays homage to its influences, and I think that's there's a very clear, distinct line where you're paying homage or acknowledging your influences and then just ripping off your influences.
Yeah, like a couple years ago, I actually made a very interesting comparison. I'll make it to you, and I'll ask your opinion. Have you seen Stranger Things?
Yes.
So it's one of the few horror things that my wife likes, and I actually told her flat out. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna show you another film. I said about these kids fighting a clown. She's like, okay. She's like, clown scare me. I'm like, no, trust me. When I tell you the story, I'm like, this is gonna sound familiar. These kids are being terrorized by this evil supernatural clown in a town, and they're the only ones that can tell what's going on because the adults can't really see it. Maybe some adults might understand, but the rest of them they don't really see this, and only the kids. The clown only targets the kids. So the kids I said are like maybe middle school, like middle school, late elementary, and they have to kind of work together to take out the clown because they're the only ones that can see it. She's like, "Is this strange?" She's like, "This sounds like Stranger Things." I'm like, "No, it's It." I'm like, "This is the original TV movie for It." So I wound up showing it to her, and she's like, "Wow, I can see Stranger Things like all over this, just all over it. But she's like, but the thing is, at least Stranger Things is different enough to be original with the Demogorgon and the Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
But I can see it all over. So I'm like, oh yeah. If anybody ever tells you Stephen King had no talent, but they're walking around with a Stranger Things shirt, you call him a hypocrite, because without Stephen King, there is no Stranger Things. Like, he was one of those people that like captured the essence of being a kid perfectly. Because I always have to say this, like, kids always know what's going on in their town more than the adults do.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they got I'm pretty sure you grew up in the Midwest, so I'm pretty sure at times you knew all the bad stuff going on in your town better than the adults did, because, well,
yeah,
you're hanging out with the rest of your friends. Probably will tell you, like, oh yeah, that guy over there, he runs a chop shop, so we can take our bikes to him and he'll fix our chain, no problem. Oh yeah, and that guy over there, he sells weed behind the bleachers, so we can go get hooked up by him if you want.
I know exactly who robbed the gas station last night. It was Jimmy. It was Jimmy's older brother. You know,
Yeah, he came joking about it to us afterwards.
He brought us all candy. So like,
and you're like, oh, okay. Like, but some people don't understand that, and I go, no, like, kids know more than we think they do in their towns. Parents are the ones that are like, this type of thing would never happen here. Yeah, the hell it can't. And when we saw Stranger Things, like, she's like, oh yeah, like, I can see this now. Like, kids are more aware because they have time to be paying attention, whereas adults are busy working. The parents are like backdrop characters. You never really see them in the same thing. You never really see them in Stranger Things.
right.
And I'm like, what I like though is the Duffer Brothers took Stranger Things and they took from the Goonies. They took from it. They took from these places. And you can see it, but it's not blatant, right? It's not like you're watching a guy play with his Transformers toys on TV for everybody to see. It's like, no, these things mix well. He borrowed and he made it work just right, and that's why it's successful. And that's what I think Rob Zombie's trying to say. It's like, I can tell, and now I'm like, yeah, it's disappointing because are you a puppet? Are you just regurgitating what they did? Or are you making your own? Like, I understand if you take their ingredients and you make your own thing, but I can tell, no, you are influenced and it shines and it's disappointing. Like, I want to see what you have to add to it, not just you rebuilding their stuff. You know, make a new story, not a remake.
Exactly.
But, yes.
I'm gonna take your Stranger Things, Stephen King thing a little bit farther, if I may. If I may, I call it Stranger Kings.
Ooh.
And here's why. Because if you watch, especially the first 2 seasons or whatever, there's a little bit of Firestarter in there. There's definitely Stephen King's hit. There's a bit of Salem's Lot. That you can dissect all of Stephen King's hits, like his major, the big ones, and there's elements that all came together to kind of give us Stranger Things.
Definitely.
And it's really weird when I see Stephen King fans shit on Stranger Things. So I was like, it's pretty much a Stephen King tribute show.
It is.
At least the first 2 seasons. Like, did I watch it's the 3rd season with Vecna?
I think that's season 4 with Vecna.
And the Metallica kid?
That's the latest one, I think. How many seasons are these people up to?
I yeah. That's the last one I saw. I saw Metallica Kid, so that's
Let me see here, because I remember it was season 1, they're little. Season 2, it's the kid from Billy. That's that one. And then the 3rd one, I think, was that the one with the mole? Hold on, I've seen it, but they go away for so long that I lose track. So they're up to season 5 right now. That's what they're filming.
Okay, so you brought up Billy. That's interesting. That's Christine.
Yes, that is Christine, right? With this car.
Isn't it
And
so
don't touch his
weird?
car. Yes, that's
What
Christine.
it's not, and it's not even that, but an outside force having an influence in changing someone who's very susceptible to being changed. Like Billy, he was an asshole, but I mean, he wasn't evil. But then an outside force turning him evil, like it's Christine, and it's
Yeah,
you
that's
should do-
Christine. Holy
you could probably
crap.
do a whole series of saying Stranger Kings and just like break down that entire.
Holy shit. Yeah, he is Christine. Because
Yeah, and then
he even turned
11 is
down that
Firestarter.
girl. Sorry,
Yeah,
11.
11 is Firestarter,
Yep.
and and actually a little bit of Dreamcatcher too, which also Stephen
Yeah.
King. Not
Heck,
not a good movie, but
yeah,
not the greatest
that's like
movie.
the
I
one
like it.
movie I could never get into. I tried and I tried and I tried, but I have to like now that I'm older, I feel like I'll be able to sit through that one. Maybe when I was younger, I just had too much on the brain to be able to sit down
Yeah,
and pay attention to that one. But now as an adult, I feel like I might like it.
it's kind of underwhelming, but I still think it's got a little something good. But yeah, there's a little bit of Shining in there, like Stranger Things is nothing but a Stephen King tribute,
Yeah, I've
and
said this to 100 people. Like without
yeah,
Stephen King, you do not get Stranger Things. As a matter of fact,
absolutely.
yeah, like I told people, as a matter of fact, whenever you can, go watch a few of the older Stephen King's films. Go read some of the books, and you will see what I'm talking about. Uh, I also, now you brought it up, Salem's Lot. I just want to take a minute and tell people, please go watch the '79 Salem's Lot. It is an amazing film. It's an amazing TV
Agreed.
series. Uh, David Soul was awesome in that, and I also enjoyed the kid who I never saw again after that movie. So, if you're out there, random kid who I never found again, just know I'm your biggest fan, even though I forgot your name.
Absolutely, I second that. Salem's Lot was incredible. It's a slow burn, and I know it was released as a series first, but I have I never buy Blu-rays. I don't buy a lot of physical media, but I never buy Blu-rays except for certain movies. And Salem's Lot Blu-ray, amazing.
Well, you
I
want to
bet it
keep
looks
those
even.
then.
I bet it looks even better in 4K, but I don't have a 4K TV. I don't think I do.
I don't think so neither.
I don't know. I
And
don't
now
know.
we're like up to 8K, and my wife, I look at my wife like the TV that the apartment came with is still very much okay. We're gonna
Right.
keep that. She's like, we're not buying anything until we move out of here, so no. And even then, it's probably gonna wind up being a monitor because I'm a millennial like that now. I like watching my stuff on my own time, and then being boring on my tablet, and then we have the big TV when we share stuff, and that's about it. But one more question I wanted to ask you because I feel like
All
we've
right.
taken our morning because this was actually really fun and I would like to do this again.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh, so this one I feel is going to take a bit of time, but I feel like we're going to do it. You gave me a perfect way for saying this. What is your top five rotating set of films that they're all subject to rotation for horror movies? Like if you could sit down and at least give some of those, like what do you think is if you had to tell someone these are the movies I like that I feel I enjoy the most for horror films. Like I'm trying to find a very nice way to very good way of putting it, but I'm just straight shooter. My English is failing me. So like, what would be a set of films that you think as your top five? As I steal from Nick Hornby with High Fidelity.
Top five. Number one will always be, always will be, and this will never change and never rotate. Bride of Frankenstein. Um,
Ooh,
yeah, I love the classics. I love James Whale. I love the Bride of Frankenstein. To me, it's not even a horror movie. It's a drama and a tragedy, and there is so much going on in that film. That film is tiramisu. It's layered, and I absolutely love it. I've loved it since I was a kid, and it will probably always be my number one favorite horror movie of all time.
Well, now I have to go re-watch that one because that is one glowing review for Bride of Frankenstein. So now I gotta
I
go
yeah,
note that one down.
I love that movie so much, and I've always loved it. Not my favorite Universal monster, but my favorite Universal movie. Uh, okay, so number 2 through 5, they could kind of go in any order, really. 1990s Nightbreed is probably one of my, well, it's my favorite Clive Barker movie. It's my favorite Clive Barker book, and I think it has one of the best slashers to ever be introduced in horror history. Dr. Decker is incredible. The way he is manipulating Boone to come up with a victim list and then exploiting his patient to go run amok in Canada and cut up families is genius. And I haven't even gotten to the monsters. Pelican, Shuna Suse, and uh, all of the Nightbreed are incredible character designs. They feel so very real, and that's what I absolutely love about that movie is they're not over the top monsters. They're not these. They're incredible, unique designs, but they are done in a believable, realistic way. Like you could see these people kind of hiding in the shadows of humanity. Like, oh, stay away from that old dark house because that person he looks weird and everything else, and you can almost envision any Nightbreed character like peeking out of a window at them, and there's this again just incredible story. It's a love story. It's a story about acceptance. It's a story of basically what I love most about it is that it's not the monsters that are the monsters in this film. It's the humans. It's Dr. Decker. It's why are the names escaping me? Jesus. Anyways, it's all the humans. It's the sheriff. It's the preacher. It's all the normal people. They're the truly evil ones in this
Dr.
film.
Decker. I feel like that name's a nod to Blade Runner. Philip K. Dick. I see his name is like credited as Philip K. Decker.
Yes.
Fascinating.
Um, and that's yeah. I got to meet Clive Barker earlier this
Ooh,
year,
you're lucky. I actually do want to meet that guy.
and unfortunately, his health isn't that great,
That's
and
what I've
so
heard.
I didn't have a lot of time to like pick his brain. But I had so many Nightbreed questions that I wanted to. uh, I just had a lot of questions about his writing in general.
Because that's a
But
dude I
yeah,
would love to sit down. Like, even if I get a phone call with him one day, I would love to. Like, can I get you on the
yeah,
phone so I can like actually ask you a lot of questions? Because to my understanding, Hellraiser is based on the BDSM culture. It's a rumor I read somewhere, and I'm like, I would love to talk with you about all that stuff. You can clarify it for me, please. Please, Guy Barker, answer these questions for me.
so I Clive Barker is my favorite horror author. I've read everything that he's done multiple times, and uh, I I'm starting to discover that I like multi-layered stories and characters and movies and films. I like that there's multiple themes being portrayed at once. I like this idea that this movie just doesn't represent A, B, or C. It's the whole alphabet. And um, Clive Barker does that a lot with his writings. From a certain point of view, yes, there was probably some influence from that. But there's also so much more. Like if you look at the film, the relationship between Frank and Julia is this weird dynamic. Frank is not a good person. He's a bad person. He's abusive. He gets physically violent and everything else. And Julia pretty much has the perfect husband. Like, he's fantastic. He's loving. He's caring. He may be a little bit on the soft side, but he's a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Yet she's constantly drawn to Frank. She's constantly drawn to this darkness, to this pain, to this abusiveness, which, kind of reflects BDSM in a lot of ways. But it's kind of a misrepresentation of the BDSM community, because those that practice within that community, there's a great deal of respect and love and nurturing between practitioners. Like, it's not about the violence. It's not about the pain necessarily. It's about trust.
So, to feed on that with Hellraiser, right? What I always found fascinating is Pinhead. Despite a lot of folks who've never heard of it, who've never seen it, they think he's the arch nemesis in the film. You don't. Pinhead isn't out looking for you. You go look for him. When Pinhead comes across your doorstep, it's because you had to jump through a lot of hoops to get that box, to get your hands to call Pinhead forth. And when you listen to Pinhead, he's kind of telling people like, yeah, no, you called me, and I'm here to show you great pleasure, because obviously nothing on this planet was enough for you. So we're gonna show you what real pleasure is. And a lot of the idea, which I've always heard, is, for example, Julia, perfect character. She has essentially the storybook life, right? Because that house, although the room on top is damp and creepy,
Yeah.
they have a very nice, like, 2-story house. It's very beautiful with a bit of, elbow grease. They could have fixed it up. That's a nice place to start raising a family if they're gonna have kids. Even though, like, he had a stepdaughter, and the stepdaughter seemed to be receptive to her. But and even then, she was like, "No, I don't have to live with you guys. Like, give you guys your own time. I can go rent a room with a roommate. It's totally fine." So she's in a very awesome position to have a good husband. But like you said, she goes back to this. She's attracted and drawn to something that's a little bit beyond the storybook happy ending. She wants that excitement. She wants that rush, because that's where her pleasure originates from. And one person I actually spoke to. So, full disclosure, my background for college was international criminal justice. So, I had to talk with a lot of people that were like former torture victims when they would get captured by WinSec and things like that. And someone that I spoke to, they mentioned to me once. So, like, the thing is with torture, yeah, some people, they equated it to like an orgasm. Like, an orgasm for some women, for example, is not voluntary. Like, if someone cracks the code, it happens. And some women, that breaks their mind psychologically. And it's a very odd thing, right, with sex. In Julia's case, and especially what it created, this torture guy told me, he's like, yeah, one time, he goes, I was shocked, and he goes, for some reason I liked it. He's like, really? He's like, I needed counseling, because he goes, this was weird. They wanted me to answer a question. They hit me with a taser. I freaked out, but then he goes, this is awkward on camera, but I'll say it out loud. He goes, I climaxed when they hit me with a taser, and he goes, I needed counseling because I didn't want that. He goes, like, that was just weird for me, right? The adrenaline made it happen. So he goes, now me taking that and watching Hellraiser again after I heard that on a different light, I always understood it as that one night with Frank, he hit the buttons right, and she could never have that again, because Frank is someone, whatever he did to her that day, that changed her, that she wanted to go looking for that again. Had she been not been her night of the night before her wedding, chances are she would have fallen down an even darker rabbit hole chasing after Frank. And Frank, in the book, they say, he's like, yeah, I could have taken her with me, but then I would have ditched her somewhere, and then I have an angry brother on my back. It wasn't worth taking her with me. But he got the joy in doing something awful. She was just confused, and it's a very, like you said, multi-layers to it. Like, when you hear stories from people, it's very weird. Then when you go watch a horror movie or something, you're like, oh, wow. that is, I understand Julia now. Like, it's not cool what she did, but I understand her now. Like, she was forever chasing a high that she only got once, and I don't think she ever knew how to get it again. If that makes any sense.
Oh no, absolutely, and I think you hit on something. Well, I guess we both talked about being multi-layered. Julia is a very complex character. I mean, she has
Very.
different motivations, and that's something about Clive Barker and like movies like Nightbreed, Hellraiser, um, are so intriguing to me because these aren't one-dimensional characters. And you had brought up like Pinhead. You have to invite Pinhead in.
Yep.
It's kind of like Jason Voorhees. Like Jason's not touring the country, going town to town. You have to put yourself in that position. Texas Chainsaw. A lot of a, a majority of our big monsters, boogeymen, and slashers, are you have to put yourself into that position to end up on the end of a machete or whatever device.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's a couple that, um, so Freddy, for example, um, like Freddy is going to hunt you. He is going to target you, and he's not going to discriminate necessarily. Like you are completely innocent in the equation. Um, for in the case of Nightmare on Elm Street, Nancy is paying the consequences or having to pay the consequences for the sins of her parents. You know, she is she is being targeted not because of what she did, but because of what her parents did, uh, which is again very like oh wow, we could talk about this stuff for days.
Well, one of my favorite quotes for from The Simpsons regarding Freddy Krueger is, "I'll get somebody you cannot protect them in their dreams," and he disappears after the two spaghetti dinners.
Yes,
But essentially, like, yeah, your kids are gonna pay for your mistake, not you.
yes,
Your
yeah,
kids are gonna
your
pay for it.
kids. And Wes Craven was certainly making a statement about that. This is coming off the end of the Vietnam War, and like, oh god, yeah. Again, another layered. It didn't make my top five, but great movie, fantastic movie.
So we
Uh,
made Nightbreed was where we wandered off into
yeah,
where we
we
are.
did.
So after
Um,
Nightbreed was number two, right? Or was it number
yeah,
three?
we'll go Nightbreed number two. So
All right.
first one, Bride of Frankenstein. Nightbreed number two. My number three, you brought up earlier, and it's kind of what brought us together. My favorite zombie movie of all time, Wild Zero.
Ah,
Uh,
yes, the film way ahead of its time.
Ahead of its time. I have seen it probably 100 times, and I never get bored with it. I still laugh. I still enjoy it. I love that movie so much. That is my favorite zombie movie of all time, and I absolutely just adore it. I have so much fun with it. Um,
Where do
it's
you get that one these days? The first time I saw it was on YouTube, and then when the sequel was announced, it got scrubbed, and I've been trying to track it down on Prime. Is that still on? Can you get that on Prime now? Because I actually do
so
want to own a proper copy of that.
so I've had to order a couple copies um, on DVD, and the only places I've found it are on Amazon, and there's another company, and it's out of Britain. I can't remember the website, but it costs like it was $12 on Amazon versus like 34 on this other British site. So
Okay.
I'm cheap. I'll go $12.
All right, so I'm gonna have to import it then. Because fortunately, when I was in Japan, I picked up a PS2, so I can watch
Oh,
all their DVDs now without any problems back here in the states.
I guarantee if you were to go to some Japanese sites, I guarantee you can find it there.
Yeah, because I just
So,
wanted to have it with the English. I wanted to have it with the English subtitles, and when that got lost, I'm like, oh no.
yeah.
and it's hard to track these down when they're gone again. So that's why I'm like, oh no, I really didn't want to lose these. But if it's anything, I'll have to track down a DVD of it because I wanted it digitally so I can, if I'm in PA,
Oh yeah.
pop it onto Prime, watch it. That's the one reason why I still go digital these days. We have a pool that we share with my family where it's like there's one Prime account, we Venmo the owner, but we have our library digital now. We
Nice.
just
Yeah.
Venmo the owner the money when we buy it. Like I bought my niece a bunch of Nightmare Before Christmas type movies the other day because she caught her uncle's bug. She loves Halloween. Her
Nice.
brother loves Christmas. She loves Halloween, and I'm like, yay! I knew
That's
I'd be your favorite uncle eventually.
hell yeah.
She's awesome. So, Wild Zero brings us together, and one of the first movies I'd ever seen where there is no gimmick to it. It is a transsexual romance in that movie, and it's addressed in my opinion, the correct way. Rock
Yes.
and roll knows absolutely no bounds, no boundaries, no borders. Just do it.
Exactly.
I'm like,
Um,
yes, that's the way it should be.
yeah, and that movie came out in 1999.
Was it 99 or 97?
Uh, it came out in the States in 99.
99 in the States.
Yeah.
Okay, so as
Yeah.
far as that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
When I look for it, I
So,
get that confused too.
so again, like, and there's just so much. Again, it's kind of a layered story here, and we follow Ace as he navigates a pre-alien invasion that causes a zombie apocalypse on Earth, and he meets Tobio, who is transgender. Um, but you have the three thieves who go on their own journey. You have Guitar Wolf, the band, as they kind of are Ace's spirit guides. But even in the beginning, there's a statement being made when the club promoter is like, "I'm not paying you," and he's like, "Your music's done. It's over
Oh
with.
yeah,
We're ushering in a new era. Like rock and roll is dead." And Ace jumps in and he's like, "Rock and roll will never die." And there's just like this great moment of which I think if you were to look at it kind of loosely, when you're a fan of something and you love something, like you are the ones that help keep it alive. Like the horror genre would have died off in the 50s had it not been for the monster kids of the 30s and the
yep,
40s, and so every so often we see this resurgence. Like in the last couple of years, we've seen this resurgence of horror and not just schlocky direct to video horror. We've seen like really fantastic stories, really amazing movies being made, and it's not. And I think all that credit goes to the audiences, goes to the fans, goes to us. Like we are propelling that genre forward. Like action movies will always exist
yep.
because there will always be an audience for it. You don't see Rambo Con, you don't see Schwarzenegger Con, you don't we don't see that kind of stuff. There's not a rom com convention circuit,
God, I
but
hope not.
but when it comes to horror, like there's conventions every month. Like big cities where celebrities go on these like little mini tours from city to city, meeting their fans. We create art. We create our own films. We do so much. Like the only reason horror is still around is because of us, the fans.
Yeah,
As long as there's a fandom, and that's Ace. Ace is us,
yeah.
and he's gonna persevere through all of this because he's going to keep it alive. And yeah, that was a long drawn out like way.
No, but it's true though. And on top of that, we also, much like Ace, love it when one of our creators pulls out a sword and wastes a UFO clean while holding
Yes,
our girl in our arms. because that's just one of those things that you just have to behold. It
Yes.
happens. Like we're always still shocked when something amazing comes out, and we're like, damn, these people can still put it out. Like one guy, right, who I always think he's done, and then he surprises me once in a blue. Well, he used to. It was Wes Craven before he went away, but he passed away. I'm like, all right, this is it for Wes Craven. That one missed call movie sucked. This can't be. He has to stop. And then, he follows up with Scream 4, which I'm like, all right, cool. You pulled a lot of young people out. You bought a really great performance out of them. It wasn't a simple, I hate Sidney Prescott's mother. That's all three of the Scream movies. The original thing. I hate your mom's a whore. Now you're going to pay for it. That's all of those movies. Please tell me if I'm wrong. Just go back.
No. You're spot on.
All three. This one was different. It was a bit of a shift. I'm like, okay, I like it. I like all of the new people that you brought into. I hope to see more of them. And it was a nice shift. And it's kind of like that with Ace. Like, Ace is like, no, rock and roll still kicks ass. Like, go away. You're wrong, weird guy who runs around in his underwear for the rest of the movie with the weird bowl haircut. You're wrong. You're the one who's out of touch. And think about it. That guy had a lot of nerve. You're going to tell the Guitar Wolf they're out of touch when you're walking around the way you're walking around.
I get it, but that's also a reflection of the society that we were in, and that we're still in.
Yeah, because there's still a lot of people out there that will tell you you're out of touch. This isn't in anymore. Kids don't like it, and then like we're over here. You're the only one talking about it. We still like it. And what are you talking about?
Give us more.
Is still cool. We're out here waiting for another Evil Dead movie, and my wife's gonna kill me when I say this. I am gonna buy that pixelated Evil Dead game when it comes out, with that Halloween one when it comes out, because they still look good to me. Damn it! Even though I told her I wouldn't buy any more video games the rest of the year, I'm gonna buy those. And those are great. Wild Zero. I actually want to watch the sequel. I'm actually really upset. It's been tough to track down as well. Wild Zero 2. Planet of the Wolves. Is Wild Zero 2, right?
Yes, and I am not sure. They did a crowdfunding to get it finished. I'm not sure if they made their goal.
It's finished. It's just they were looking for a distributor, and I don't know if they found one. But they were hosting it on circuits for a little while for festivals, and I don't know. Did you manage to go to their concerts when they were touring?
No. I missed out. And I really they'll be back though. They'll be.
Yeah, because I heard they were going to be screening the movie at some of their concerts.
Yeah.
It's tough because I was like, when they were doing it is when we were in the middle of me going to Japan. So I'm like, I want to go support them, but I was in Japan for like 2.5 weeks, and when I came back, I was dirt poor. But
I imagine,
I really want to see their sequel because it looks really good. Like I'm like, and those guys didn't age a damn day. They look the same. The Guitar Wolf guys, but
Guitar Wolf and Drum Wolf. Rest in peace, Bass Wolf. Like,
oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, Bass Wolf passed away a couple years back. I can't remember when exactly, but yeah, he passed away. So, but the new Bass Wolf looks very much like the former Bass Wolf.
Probably pulled him out of a clone machine or something like. All right.
Yeah. You're the new Bass Wolf.
We're just going to mourn you for a few bit, but it's okay because I will just clone you again. Dr. Evil. We'll just clone you again and we'll find another one. But there would be moments there where I would be inconsolable.
Right.
So now with Guitar Wolf, once again, thank you because you helped my channel with the big bass get built in and walking me into TikTok. So thanking you on that one.
Rock and roll. I mean, that's what it's all about.
So you're my Guitar Wolf and I'm your Ace.
Hell yeah.
That's how I see it. So with after Guitar Wolf, I am going to say from Asia, they are knocking it out of the park to zombie movies to this day because Train to Busan was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I won't interrupt that one. which one comes after Guitar Wolf? After I keep mixing. You know what it is? It sounds like a horror movie, Guitar Wolf 2. It sounds
Right.
like a rock and roll werewolf punk rock movie that needs to be made somewhere. Guitar Wolf.
Right.
It
Right.
does.
Guitar Wolf with werewolves and yeah,
Yes, it feels like it's a movie that needs to be made. But that's why every time I
absolutely.
say the name, I'm like, no, the zombie movie is called Wild Zero. The band is Guitar Wolf. But for some reason, I always call the movie Guitar Wolf because I keep confusing. No, it's not. It's not that. It's Wild Zero. So
Yes.
Wild Zero is number 4, right? Or is it
Number three.
number 3?
Yeah.
So which one is number 4?
Number 4 is a love letter to classic horror and just a movie I will never get sick of and will always love, and that's Monster Squad.
Oh man, I saw that movie
Monster.
as an adult, and I'm so mad I didn't get to see it as a kid. That was
It's
such a good movie.
it's so good, and what I absolutely appreciate about it now as an adult is I can see every single classic horror influence throughout that film. I mean, there's obviously the obvious ones. You got the Gill Man, you got Dracula, you got the Mummy, Frankenstein's monster, Wolfman. Those are the obvious nods. So one of my favorite werewolf movies of all time is Curse of the Werewolf. It's a Hammer film from back in the day, 1958? No, 1961, I believe. Um, and the Wolfman and Monster Squad, the design, the coloration, everything about him is very much reminiscent of Curse of the Werewolf. There is a scene in Monster Squad where the dad comes out and Dracula's standing on the front porch and he fires his gun at Dracula and the bullets go through him.
Oh yeah.
That is that is a direct nod to Son of Dracula, starring Lon Chaney Jr. as Dracula. The protagonist comes in, he's got a gun. Dracula is there with his girl, and he fires at Dracula. The bullet goes through Dracula and hits his girl. And so, like, there's just all these little subtle moments that are that I, an avid classic horror watcher like myself, who's seen all these movies a million times over, will pick up on that most casual viewers probably would not. But that's what I love about it. It is a history from 1931 up through 1965 of all the horror films of old that I love. And yeah, Monster Squad is just a great fucking movie too.
I love that movie. My favorite thing is the dad character, the guy, the main character's father. Like when I saw that movie the first time, I'm like, I have a feeling that's what I would be like as a dad. I would have that kind of like short tone with people. Yeah, I love you, you're my son, but I need you to put your basic lid on it. Like, shut up.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Here's your $5, but you're not ducking out of babysitting. He's like, oh,
right.
can I have $5? Sure, but you're still babysitting.
Yeah, yeah. There's just and every character, and not just the kids, but like you said, the dad, the mom.
Creepy German guy was awesome.
Oh yeah, but even Dale, the dad,
Yeah.
his partner in on his detective partner.
Yeah, the detective partner.
Yeah, like that moment where they're interviewing the security guard at the museum, and he's like, "Hello."
It's like, so he didn't. He's like, so he walked out here, closed and shut, huh? But it's like,
Yeah.
but at that point, like, you might as well just have fun with it because you're in for a long night.
Right,
Somebody
right.
stole something out of the museum. They're not gonna let you go back to back home after that. You're out there until you find something. Their town happens to be the one town that got hit for the mummy being stolen. Somebody walked into the museum, stole a corpse, and walked out on your time. You're not going home. So at that point, might as well just chuckle about it. It's over.
Yeah. And it's just a great movie. It's got one of the best Draculas ever.
Yes.
It's got Tom Noonan is one of the best Frankenstein monsters ever, and um, I love the Mummy. I love the design of all the monsters in that film. Uh, a beautiful Gilman. That oh god, like oh, so there's just so much to love about that movie, and the fact that it came out in the '80s.
Yep.
Like
Especially they
if
have a kid shooting the. It's that's what you notice in '80s movies. There's a kid shooting the monster from the Black Lagoon. He just wastes him away, and he looks at it like, "My name's not Fat Boy, it's Horace." Clack clack. I'm like, yes, '80s. This is your
absolutely,
charm of the '80s. Nowadays, that wouldn't happen.
yeah, I don't think you would get that kind of uh, that '80s Rambo machismo. Uh,
But it was still
but
awesome when we did.
yes,
Rest in peace,
yes.
that kid. I think he passed away too a couple years ago.
Oh,
Horace.
did he?
I remember
Oh,
reading somewhere. I think he passed away.
oh, that's sad.
That is sad. But you were
Oh,
also saying something else before I cut you off. I'm sorry.
oh no, no. I always think about that movie, and I have a lot of fun memories with that movie, and I will just forever love that movie. And yeah, so it definitely had to go up in the top five.
So far,
And
we share a lot of the top fives. Cause that one is in my like Halloween rotation. I love watching that one, and I'm waiting for my nephew to outgrow the YouTube Kids syndrome, so I can be like, all right, we're gonna watch Monster Squad.
yes,
Because it's you and your little sister against the evil monsters. Let's do this. It's gonna be fun.
absolutely.
That's a great one. I love that one. And so, which one would be number five?
Shadow of the Vampire with Willem Dafoe and
Oh, that one is
yeah.
such an interesting movie. I'm actually
Ah,
looking forward to Willem Dafoe stepping into Count Orlok again.
oh, and Nosferatu, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's gonna be. So I'm if I haven't established already, if you've been listening to this whole podcast and you have not figured out that I love classic horror, then
Oh,
allow me
really? Who would
to
have known?
allow me to reiterate. I love classic horror, and Nosferatu to me is one. It's a beautiful film. Count Orlok is an amazing character, and Shadow of the Vampire does something so interesting and so unique and so creative. Um, I absolutely love it. John Malkovich is too good in this movie. He is too good in this movie. Willem Dafoe is amazing. Um, yeah, it's one of those films that kind of snuck in on me years ago. I was at it's a rental place, and it's like a Blockbuster movie gallery or something, and I saw Shadow of the Vampire. I was like, that looks like Nosferatu. Let me check this out. Rented it, never took it back. Got charged for the whole movie. That's fine, whatever. But yeah, I had that movie forever.
That's how I know you did it recently because we took some movies from Blockbuster and we never gave them back.
Right.
Fuck them. I rented a lot of bad movies from them, and that's my payback. I got to keep Land of the Dead. Where it wound up, I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
I got to keep it.
But yeah, Shadow of the Vampire rounds out my top five.
I have to
So
say, I'm surprised I never saw John Malkovich in that many horror movies.
you know what? That's a great observation. He's an amazing actor and just
He's up there
an
in the
abs.
most menacing people, right? And you never really see him in horror movies like that.
Right. You've seen him play the villain many times, but and dramas and everything else, but you never actually see a horror version of. Yeah, you don't see him in horror movies, and
Right?
that's
Like,
kind of unfortunate.
I was wondering that myself. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. That's the only horror movie I can remember him being in. But he's been in so many films, but I don't think he does that much horror. And it's a shame because he is to me like that perfect. If, for example, right, I love what Malcolm McDowell did with Dr. Loomis, but to
Oh, me
me,
too.
John Malkovich would have been an interesting pick too. Dr. Loomis,
Oh, yeah. I have to think about that one.
right?
For yeah,
It's one of
yeah,
those
I
things you don't
guess.
notice it until someone points it out. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
Mm.
because I would. I know this is going to sound weird, but I would love to see him in a in a Van Helsing esque uh, as a Van Helsing esque character in some kind of vampire. So he would be your not necessarily your protagonist, but the person that assists the protagonist in defeating the vampire.
Yeah,
Um, just
the
because
know-it-all doctor.
he can bring that intensity. And you said you had liked Dracula, Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, and I think that Van Helsing has that same intensity, has that same abrasiveness. There's almost there's a cold scientific, emotionless process about him, and I think John Malkovich could bring that
Oh,
same energy
definitely, especially
to a
since
vampire story.
that that Anthony Hopkins is going around like that Van Helsing. He's there eating his steak very dirtily, and he's like, "Yeah, I cut off a head, and I threw we cut burnt out the body, and we cut off a head. More ale, please." He's eating that
Right.
nugget.
It's like he just removed a bunion, or
Yeah,
like it's hey, this was a medical procedure that we had to get done, and it's done. I worked up an appetite. Let's eat.
yeah. Or when
You
he
know,
finds out your darling Lucy is a whore of the devil, and he's like humping the air or something. I'm like, dude, manners, bedside manners. Come on, that's his fiance. We'll save her still. He just runs down like, yeah, I could see John Malkovich doing that. I would have also liked to see John Malkovich as Renfield for some reason.
oh, I don't know. Do we have can we talk about Renfield, the latest installment of Renfield, for just a moment?
Yes, go
Since
for it, and we'll close out
ah
with Renfield.
yeah, hated the movie. Loved Nicolas Cage as Dracula. Um, but I hated the movie because I felt it was a wasted opportunity to explore a very interesting character. They made it so campy, so cheery, so depressingly soft. Like it felt like teen pining, for a lost love, or it was just, oh god, I was really disappointed in that movie. I loved Nicolas Cage's Renfield, but going back to Renfield itself, Dwight Frye being the first Renfield, you have Tom Waits, you've had all these iterations of Renfield, and they've all been played so uniquely, yet we've never, as I say we, but the movies have never explored that character in depth. And
We
when they
can say
do,
we. I was Dracula in the school play, so
oh, okay,
we'll go ahead and say we.
yeah, let's go with we. We've never explored the depth of that character or that character story. And the first opportunity that we had, we made him a watered down version of My Chemical Romance. And
It was like emo Renfield.
yeah, it's like emo soft rock, like I don't even know how to describe it.
I bring my master food. I don't know how I like it. Or look at that pretty cop. I'm Renfield. That movie felt like to me when I saw it. If it weren't for Aquafina and Nicolas Cage, I don't know if I would have given that movie as a thumbs up, because I love Nicolas Cage in that movie. Like it was one of those moments where I'm like, I wish this was just about you. Not
Right.
him, just you. We could get rid of Nicholas Holt and just keep you and Aquafina here, and I would be happy. because I thought this was
Exactly.
good.
And it's not that, and I say I hated the movie. I didn't hate the movie. The movie's enjoyable. It's well done. It's just I don't like Renfield.
And he's the
I
title
like
character.
I like the idea of the familiar wanting to strike back and everything else. But we're talking about someone, a character who historically has been an even-tempered, smart, charming individual who unexpectedly gets lured into the service of the most evil, diabolical creature character on the planet, and spirals into a madness. There's a story there. There's an absolutely a real story, a horrific story, a wonderful, compelling story to be told. You slapped some bright colors on it and made it look like a Target ad, and it had great comedic elements to it, but ultimately I was disappointed. And I want to see Renfield done in a really, really, really compelling way, because I think he's a compelling character.
You know what I would have liked to have seen a Renfield iteration version of? Did you see the last voyage of the Demeter?
I did, I did,
That
and I really liked it.
that would have been a good Renfield origin story, like
Right?
something like that, where, for example, like that guy who is obviously, unfortunately, we're not gonna get a sequel for that movie now, but he's walking off looking for Dracula, right, in
Yes.
London. To me, that would have been very fascinating had he become Renfield, right? Like that would have been the ultimate tragedy where he's like, "I'm going to take you on for what you did to all these kids," and then, like right then, the last one's like, he pulls out like Dracula stops him, pulls out a bumper sticker, but out like a tag or something, Renfield, and then that's it. Like we know already, like this guy started
Yeah.
out as a dude, and that's why he still is nuts. He can't always be 100% a servant. He gets caught because he's nuts, but that would have been a very awesome Renfield adaptation in my book. Right there, he's on the Demeter. He's watching these people get killed. He's becoming vulnerable, and then he just gives himself in like, okay, no one can take you. That's why I'm gonna hand myself over to you, master. My
Right.
friend
I
did a
mean,
better Renfield impression than I can ever do.
there's just so much potential there for something really compelling, and yeah, any opportunity I get to talk about Renfield and kind of, I don't mean to shit on the movie, but I guess I'm shitting on the movie.
Well,
I'll
I think
take
you're
it.
giving it a fair critique where it's like
Yeah.
there was a lot to be done there. They had the perfect components because Nicholas Holt's a good actor.
Oh, he's a great actor. He's a
He's a
fantastic
really good
actor.
actor, but unfortunately, right? Uh, so again, right? I keep saying this, but it's to hit the point home. My wife is Chinese, and Disney did a Mulan movie a couple years ago, live action one. Uh, they absolutely hated it. They're like, this movie was awful. They're like, there's some everyone here is up for the task, but whoever put this together did not know how to even read an IKEA instruction manual. Nevertheless, make a movie. This was just not good. They're like, the actress is good. She's come out of China. She's done great movies. The dad has been in a lot of popular films. But they go, whatever they did here, they chose to cut the music. They chose to cut out some characters when there's plenty of people that could have filled the role in Hollywood to do the characters. And then on top of that, you know, the choices that they made stylistically for the movie, they're like, all of this is just awful when they had great talent in front of the camera to do this movie. Like, they could have been done just right, but they didn't do it. And it's the same thing with Renfield. Like, I've only seen it once, and I remember enjoying it, but I only saw it once. And to me, that's a big flag. If I can only watch a movie once and I thoroughly enjoyed it, then there was something off with it. And I didn't hate it. I just, like you said, it's something's missing. There was an opportunity there for a good character. They didn't take the opportunity to give me a good Renfield story. They just decided to give me John Wick with a vampire in the background somewhere. That's
Yeah.
That's ultimately what he is, right? Like he's just fighting people and ripping them apart. I didn't understand why we needed any of that, but fine. Because why did he need to be fighting all the cops? Like,
Why did he need superpowers?
yes, if he needs
Like,
superpowers, then he can take on Dracula, right? If he has
right.
superpowers.
And that was another part of the letdown is, wouldn't it be more of a challenge? Isn't it more like it builds more suspense if this person has zero superpowers? He eats bugs. But to give him, these little spurts, oh, I'm going to eat a beetle and now I can jump 10 stories. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of it's ridiculous and it's absurd.
This is a
I,
power up for you, eating a beetle. Like, first off, sir, where the hell did you find a beetle in California? I'd understand if you were eating roaches, but you're eating like these kinds of bugs. It's me being a snob, but it's like you're telling me you eat bugs and you have all these superpowers and you're scared of the guy who can't walk around at night, who can only walk around at night.
right.
Is this, to quote South Park, that does not make sense.
And it really doesn't. And that's part of the. I know a lot of people like the movie, and I've tried to keep my critiques to myself about it because I'm not trying to not ruin, but shit on a movie that people like. But
That's what we do here at the Gassy
yeah,
Hollows. My robot companion is not present to engage you in continuing to shit on the movie. That's why the aliens threw him off the ship, because he was supposed to catalog their media and he didn't. He just kept talking bad about it.
so,
What he kept doing. But that's what we do here. So no, like honestly, your honest opinion on it is what I'm after. So you think it wasn't that great? You're giving me a good reason. There's a lot of stuff in it that just didn't make any proper sense. But
and
it could have been better.
it could have been so much more. Like, even if you wanted to keep the comedic element to it, imagine just a normal dude. A normal dude, no superpowers. So that first moment when he goes into the restaurant, and this is where he meets Aquafina's character. Um, so take out the superpowers. Now this guy just clumsily, magically, like, is able to dispatch all these people. Isn't that a little more funny? Isn't that a little more compelling
Yeah.
than, ooh, let me eat a worm and whoo, I'm Super Mario? Like, it's
Suddenly now I can pick up people and rip off their arms and beat them with it. Where it's like it would
right.
have been funnier with you not necessarily having done that. You could have. I
Because
trusted you guys did not need to do that interesting thing, but
yeah, it was a choice. It was a choice. I can't say that I agree with it.
So Renfield, I'm pretty sure when my colleague hears this, he's gonna come back and be like, "Oh my God, you guys decided to." Well, there goes that one. But in all fairness, we're not talking bad about anyone in it, because Aquafina, you are technically one of my neighbors, so I don't really want to make you mad because I could possibly get some blowback for that. Yeah, fun fact, her grandma has a restaurant, right? And I grew up 2 blocks away from the restaurant her grandma owns.
Nice.
So my mom was actually making an observation there. She's like, we probably ran across that girl a whole bunch of times when we were kids. When you guys were kids. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I was in that area from like 98 until 2007. Like, we definitely ran across that girl at some point.
Oh yeah.
That's her neighborhood. And now I live like not so geographically, where I live is 2 stations away from the Mets stadium, Mets based City Field, where the Mets play.
Okay.
I live like right around the Mets area. Like,
oh, all right.
So when there's a game, I hate the Mets because my traffic shoots up by like 20%.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, so that's how Queens I am. I went to school where Spider-Man went to school, and Aquafina has a sitcom about my neighborhoods.
That's insane.
We don't want to piss off Aquafina here because I may actually get some blowback for that one.
Yeah, Aquafina, I thought you were charming and funny, and I really liked I really liked your performance and pretty much everything that you're in. And I'm not just saying that; I mean that sincerely. I think you have great comedic timing and delivery. I think you were underused in Renfield.
He
Same with
was.
Nicholas Holt. Nicholas Holt, you were underused. Nicholas Cage, you were underused. And I know that sounds strange considering those are the three main characters, but I don't think they gave them enough range or flexibility to show off their true talents.
No, but like I said, I enjoyed it, but I actually feel like I would have just preferred it just be a straight movie about Nicolas Cage as Dracula. Like, you imagine a
Agreed.
movie about Nicolas Cage as Dracula trying to set up shop in New York? I set up shop in LA. That would have been hilarious on its own. And I
Oh,
liked the
absolutely.
visuals. I liked the colors that they put. Like, he has that blood bag thing when you walk in and see him the first time. Like, this is awesome. The fangs that he used were also different. I haven't seen those before. Like the razors for all the front teeth. So I'm like, this is amazing. And then it's Nicolas Cage, who you can tell he probably did a hit of acid and walked out and did all of his roles, all of his scenes that way.
Yeah.
It was perfect. But it just, I wish it would have been about him. And the other guy take a back seat to him, you know?
Yeah.
Him being the ultra, like him versus Aquafina, I feel would have been a perfect dynamic with the other guy in the middle without superpowers. Just kind of like, we need you to turn on him because you know how to kill him. Something like that. But, not my movie, not my script. If it were my script, I would have probably also included a lot more, how can I say this without saying, a lot more Aquafina time. Because she's my boo and she's my neighbor. So. And so do you have any projects you're working on you'd like to let us know so I can when I start sharing this stuff if you need any awareness to it?
Oh, I'm working on a haunt documentary where I'm basically traveling the country, going to various haunts of various sizes. I'm interviewing haunt owners, operators, makeup artists, actors, uh, and really just to kind of highlight the people behind the magic that entertain us for a month and a half every year during spooky season. I was a haunt actor at numerous haunts. I, I'm an avid haunt visitor, and I decided to do this project just to uh, show the world or anyone willing to watch that there's more than just standing in line for an hour and paying $30. That these are people that have a love for the things that we as visitors as customers, they share the same love that we do, and they just need their moment in the limelight. So
That's awesome. Uh, well, whenever you're done or whenever you manage to wrap it up, if you want to come and just like go over some of it with us, we're more than we'd love to have you back on.
oh yeah, definitely. It's going to be released next October, so there's a whole year of various haunt trips and interviews with industry professionals to do. So hopefully October, hopefully the week of Halloween, next October, it'll I'll have it available to see.
All right, cool. Now I actually look forward to seeing that. One of my go-to movies that I have to rewatch because I was obsessed with it, and then for some reason my mind just lost it over the years. The House is October Built.
Oh yeah, great movie.
I love that movie, and I have to go back and revisit it because I've been wanting to talk about that one on my TikTok for a while. So this one is actually going to be a good one. I'll probably revisit that and maybe pick your brain about it a little bit when we can.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love
Nice.
that.
And so we'll talk to you when that one comes out. And you're still on your Honker S CLOWNSON, right? You're still on yours. It's
Yes,
Cecil. The Cecil one is the one that has changed a few times. I
yes.
remember when he first met you it was Arlie Grind. Then it was Cecil and Arlie. Now it's Cecil and the Candy Crew. That were
Yeah, the Candy Corn Crew. Yeah.
The candy corn crew. And I do have to hit you up to send a certain someone I know a message about cotton, her hatred of candy corn,
Yes,
because
yes.
I like candy corn. I'm not a fan of Good and Plenty, but I did like candy corn. So, with that one, thank you for everything. Thank you for your time. This was a lot of fun. Uh, I always have a gauge. When the time goes, literally, we've spent our whole day talking comfortably here. That means we had a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I hate being on the phone. And I hate talking just to talk, but this was a lot of fun, and uh thank you. Thank you
you're,
so much. Like
you're
we'll have to
welcome.
do this again.
We definitely want to do this again. And if you're ever in New York, this is my you just hit me up. We'll go have a beer. I know a horror bar around here that has
Nice.
dragged me. My wife has had to drag me and the person who's marrying us out out into a cab to make sure we got home safe, so I can go check
I
that
mean,
out with you. All right,
yeah, definitely. It
nice,
happens. I love it.
and that's great. So I'll let you go, so you can go on about the rest of your day and keep getting some rest. Because yesterday you drove from Chicago, right, to where you're at.
Oh
So
yeah, no, I drove to from South Bend to Chicago, from Chicago back to South Bend. I had to drive around Chicago, hit up a couple haunts last night. I've got one of my haunt reviews is up right now on TikTok at Cecil and the Candy Corn Crew.
nice. I'll make a point to upload that for you too. All right.
All right.
Nice. So it was nice talking with you, RLEE, and I hope I get to talk with you again. And
Absolutely.
so this one, the stream is gonna stay up. I'm gonna ask my buddy for some help to rip the audio and upload it for us later on Spotify. I upload it to a site that uploads it to almost every podcast host service. So if you want to come back and redo it, they're all
Okay.
good to go. All right. So
Awesome. Hell yeah.
perfect. So thank you once again. Thanks for all of the help you got me introducing me to some cool folks on TikTok. Thanks to you
Oh, yeah.
guys. Thanks to you, I'm over here fanning flames between Chunky Larry and Tragic Roar, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. Have at it. Have at it.
And I got to make friends with the candy corn that has a mean streak a mile wide.
Yeah. That is true. That is true.
He does.
He does. He
It's
does.
awesome.
I'm not gonna lie.
He's probably gonna listen. Like, I have a mean streak. You got a problem.
What's the matter? Can't handle a little humor.
No, sir, I can't. Yes, I can. Awesome. So thank you very much, and I'll let you go. And hopefully
All right,
we'll do
man.
this again.
Yes, definitely. Hit me up and let's do something sometime soon.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right. You have a good one, Arlie. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
And that was Arlie Grind of the Ghastly Hallow of TikTok. I'm Pumpkin Jack, and this went a lot longer than I thought it was, but I think we had a great interview with Arlie. So, for anybody watching, this will be up on Spotify. Make sure to follow Arlie over on TikTok and Instagram. He has Cecil and the Candy Crew.